on? I am Nando.
And I am Diggins.
And this is Mostly Nitpicking, a podcast where every week we pick apart a piece of pop culture. Woohoo!
Yeah, right.
This week we're talking about a movie that I love. And there's one of those movies. Yeah, one of those movies that I regard highly from my childhood. We're going to watch it again and see if it's good still, or if I was a child when I watched it. Unfortunately, DJ couldn't be here. He got called off on a globetrotting mission by the Vatican to Canada, the best place to find the devil or whatever whatever the Vatican's after. Really,
they call paintings Canada the devil's country.
Obscene. Yeah, and it's because it's like where like the French people, right? There's a lot of French people and the Pope and them don't get along sometimes because of history. So maybe that's what he's after.
Sometimes the French king is like, I think that there's a different Pope actually, and this guy here in Avignon, he's the Pope, and then that goes on for a little while.
And they haven't found that guy because he ran away, but they think maybe he's in Canada. And that would be, if there was going to be an Antichrist, it would definitely be the evil Pope. Like if your religion was the real one, that would be an interesting character.
I mean, they do call them anti-popes when that happens.
They called him the anti-pope? Oh my God.
Yeah, so sometimes kings in medieval times would be like, I don't like what the Pope's got to say, so I'm going to take this cardinal or whatever in my own country, and they're the Pope now. And those would be called anti-popes.
But like not by them, right? They wouldn't be like, I'm gonna get a fucking anti-pope. That'll show them. And then like dress their pope up, but like in different colors with their logo backwards. And it's like, he's gonna only say things, I don't know, speak backwards like Yoda. Be pretty impractical. But
I mean, they did put the symbol backwards, but only because the cross is symmetrical.
That's
so
true.
It's the same.
Jesus knew. It was like, if they ever do anti-popes or bizarro popes or whatever, I got an idea. They were like, we're going to make the cross like this. And he was like, no, like this. Oh, fuck. He thwarted us again, Jesus.
That's why the Orthodox Church messed up, because they do have the little slant thing on their crosses. And
they have a slanty cross?
Yeah. The sort of traditional cross symbol of the Eastern Orthodox Church.
Oh yeah, that thing.
Mm-hmm. So if you ever set up an anti-patriarch, then everyone will be able to tell, like, that's backwards. So this is the evil one.
That'd be a funny way to tell. If because I feel like that's how Spider-Man would tell the chameleon did Nick Fury wrong, as the eye patch would be on the wrong eye. There was a whole fucking Da Vinci Code movie, and the whole movie the Pope had it on backwards, and only at the last minute did Robert Langdon notice it. And then now I'm looking at it though, what is this slanty bit at the bottom?
I don't know. I don't know.
It's not like
the history of the symbol. I just know that they use it.
That makes sense. Yeah, looking at it, I'm like, this is I could see how this could be just what a cross is, but it's like there's a whole extra one up top too for another guy. If you want to crucify a little guy and then also the big guy, you could get 2 for 1.
It's for efficiency. Yeah. They were crucifying too many people, so they needed to add in extra slots.
Good for them. And I guess no, he has Van Helsing does have a collapsible crucifix in as part of his kit, so he should probably have one from each just in case. But I guess if he's fighting monsters that aren't, sanctioned by the Catholic Church, what's the point?
The historical Dracula, Vlad the Impaler, was Orthodox. He wasn't Catholic.
That's true. That's a good point, actually. Yeah, why is the crucifix part of it?
Well, in the original story, I do believe Abraham Van Helsing, the character, is Catholic. And so he uses communion wafers and...
You mean Gabriel Van Helsing, the main character of Van Helsing?
Maybe that's something we can talk about later.
Maybe that's some deep lore we'll get into. But yeah, so hopefully DJ will be back from Canada next week.
Yeah, hopefully he'll have
for,
tracked down like the Wendigo or whatever he's after.
or the Wolverine, perhaps. Maybe
Mm.
he's going to be have great research on this, one of the stars of the movie and one of the characters of the movie, but not the same one. I guess Ryan Reynolds is Canadian, and until then,
Maybe
we have to
that's the
talk.
monster he's been sent to track down is Ryan
Ryan
Reynolds.
Reynolds. Oh my God, yeah, that would be tough because you go to like a, you go to a payphone to call someone, and then you'd notice it's like a Mint Mobile payphone. It'll have one big conspiracy, the whole country. You go to the local gin dealer and be like, I need help finding Ryan Reynolds. And then they turn around, they'd have the aviation gin symbol on. You'd be like, oh no, you got them too. Very few people that aren't under the control of Ryan Reynolds in Canada. But speaking of people being under the control of other people, in the movie Captain America 4, whatever it's called now.
Brave New World, I think.
A movie they had, yeah. Captain America 4, I think they should just call it Title Withheld, because you never know when they'll have to change something about the movie because of some sort of real world thing. First, it was called, what was it called? New World Order. And then they had to change that because it's a conspiracy theory or something. Which I think it's been a conspiracy theory for long enough. They probably should have seen that one coming.
Oh yeah, that's a really old one. That's their own fault.
Yeah, and then they had the Israeli character that they seem like they maybe had to write out or at least kind of paper over their backstory in a way that makes them less explicitly tied to any one government. And now they have another thing that they'll probably have to fix in the next couple of weeks before the movie comes out or whatever.
So you think that they're not going to incorporate the storyline where the Hulk yells at her for not caring about Palestinian deaths?
Maybe they will. Maybe they'll bring, what? Maybe they will. Maybe Mark Ruffalo will show up on set to just yell, and then they'll have to figure out a way to like cut that out of the background. Like, because right now those Giancarlo Esposito scenes that they reshot, also, if you really pay attention, have like Mark Ruffalo, Bruce Banner holding up a sign in the background. Say like Palestinian lives matter, impeach Sombra or Sabra? I can't remember. Not Sombra from Overwatch. Yeah, I think it is Sabra.
Not Spanish for shadow.
Nope. She could stay. But yeah, Sabra, they seem to have, from what I understand, she is now, and maybe always was to some extent, but like she's a Black Widow who was from, I guess, recruited from Israel or something. But like the characters, went through the Russian Black Widow program and then is like around now. So cool. It's a shame we didn't have any other Black Widows that were just, I guess it would have been weird if Florence Pugh Black Widow had weaseled her way into the, president's organization within like a year of existing. But
I mean, doesn't she work for the U.S. government right now? Doesn't she work for Julia Louis-Dreyfus?
That's a good point. And I guess we'll find out what she's doing, because I think that movie's supposed to take place at the same time as this movie, the Thunderbolts : Thunderbolts exclamation point. No, wait. What is it? Asterisk movie. And she seems to be the main character in that. But
is that their title woe for that one? They keep cycling through punctuation.
Yeah, and I think that one, so they didn't cycle through it, but they did add the asterisk, and I think that maybe was intentional, as opposed to this one where they made a mistake. Same way that, like, I think the Agatha one, they thought they had a really cool joke on their hands, which I think was fine, but I think mostly just confused people. I think the Thunderbolts one, they were like, it would be fun if we put the asterisk, and then that would be something that got people excited. And it works, It's all we've been talking about.
That's true. That's all I've seen in all my social media feeds for months now. It's people being like, there's an asterisk in the Thunderbolts movie now.
Mm-hmm. And it's going to mean probably that there's another Thunderbolts team or something or whatever, or that there's, I don't know. It's weird because this movie has a character named Thunderbolt in it, but it doesn't seem like he's on that team in the other movie. But is he even named that in these? Does anybody ever call him like, hey, Thunderbolt Ross? They must.
I don't remember. When was the last time he even showed up?
Like Infinity War, right? Or I guess he was at Iron Man's funeral, but he was in the hologram where he's like, arrest them, War Machine, and then they turned him off. And then he's in Civil War before that, where he's like, you all deserve to be arrested. And then he's in Incredible Hulk before that, but that one barely counts anymore. So yeah, I don't know.
Well, you say that, but the leader's coming back.
That's true. We are getting a bunch of characters from that, including the leader. I've heard he's in this trailer. Maybe if you pay attention, you can kind of see his hand or something. But he was maybe one of the main characters. We got plenty of Sabra, but not a lot of leader, which makes me think maybe she's the real villain. You know, maybe she's the leader. Maybe they went woke. Finally, a female leader. But yeah, what did you think of this trailer for Captain America? Title, you know, will to be named later.
Title of show.
It
was fine. I don't know. I mean, it was mostly alternating images of Falcon or Captain America, excuse me, doing stuff, and then Red Hulk doing stuff, and then some guys shooting, and it was just that over and over again for a minute and 30 seconds.
And it did like really fast editing, and it went, who is the good guy or whatever, with like kind of flashing lights. So, you know, if you have like seizures, this movie was very exciting for you. I hope that doesn't, just the whole movie isn't that, but maybe it will be.
Maybe the whole movie is just a trigger for epilepsy. That's the whole reason it exists.
Yeah, maybe because it seems like one point
like that side quest in Cyberpunk. Remember that?
No, what was that?
There was a side quest where you like went in a machine that flashed lights at your character, and they like had modeled it on real like devices they use to trigger epileptic seizures.
What?
For like medical purposes. So it actually, if you had epilepsy, it would trigger a seizure because it was designed to do that.
That's
they had
incredible.
to patch it out because it was, you know, insanely dangerous.
That's wild. I thought we were going to talk about that one episode of Pokemon where the lights flashed and everyone kind of got, I don't know if that was a real thing or just an urban legend, but like, I didn't know that they made that with that. How do you do that? Not like, how do you do that? But like, I feel like every show I watch now, like about half of them have some sort of like, this might be epileptic seizure episode, so watch out. How do you just go, hey, let's see what we do. Put one in the game. See what happens, you know? Never know. Maybe it'll be good. Maybe it'll be bad. We'll see.
It seems just like an incredible amount of not thinking about it.
Who made that game? Was it CD Projekt Red, right?
Project Red, yeah.
Where are they? Are they from?
Poland.
Oh, okay. No. Yeah, that's. I don't know if they're known for that, but they shouldn't be trusted. Yeah, for epilepsy, for not being sensitive to epilepsy, for just, they're one of those countries where if you say I've got epilepsy, they just go, ugh, not again. These fakers.
A whole bunch of people show up with weapons, like, we don't like people with epilepsy here.
Yeah. Is that a good Polish accent? I don't know. I buy it.
It wasn't trying to be, I'll tell you that.
Oh, okay. What else was interesting in this trailer? We saw other Falcon. There's 2 Falcons now. I mean, there's a Falcon now, and then Captain America Falcon.
Right.
So
a thing I don't think anyone will ever successfully call him on the first try.
Yeah, it's tough, man. I have a lot of trouble with it. He's like, there's Falcon, and then Captain America, and then Captain Falcon is the guy, and those 3 words all get mushed together, or those 3 options, and something comes out every time. But maybe by the end of this movie, he'll just say it enough, like, I'm Captain America, you guys, and then it'll be a whole thing. There'll probably be a character who's like, you're not even Captain America, and then, you know.
Do you think that will be the second in a row thing starring him, where the main thing is people don't think he's Captain America?
Yeah, I think so. He's got to keep doing it.
I feel like that's the thing. I feel like every storyline of him is going to be like, I'm not Steve Rogers, I'm Captain America. Like every time, because no one is ever going to actually not think of Steve Rogers.
Yeah, it's funny the way that this trailer does like pose that issue here with General Ross or President Ross or whatever being like, we want to make Captain America a military position again. It's like, how long was it a military position for? Like a weekend? It doesn't seem like, I guess there was a lot of like Captain America adventures happening. Yeah, it was a montage that probably took place over the course of a year, but still, like, it's not like it's like, you know, something that's existed. Like, it's not like George Washington has always had a Captain America hiding in the U.S. Army, and it just this one was the one with superpowers, so it kind of got loose.
Well, we did. There was in the really bad show, it was revealed that they did some Captain America stuff between Steve getting frozen and waking up.
Is that a thing they did in the show? Oh, well, they did like experiments, but they didn't.
At least,
yeah, they didn't let him be Captain America unless they secretly did or something. I don't know. We'll probably see that in this movie too.
Do you think they'll ever canonize that one guy who was like Captain America in the 50s, who they later retconned as like some paranoid anti-communist agent?
Yeah, the Grand Director, probably. I actually think like I understand what they did with what's his name with U.S. Agent, and I do think that is pretty much like that's a pretty faithful translation of that character. But I don't think I think it would have been more interesting if it was a character like that. Who just showed up and was like, I'm Steve Rogers again. Everyone was like, I don't think you are. And it turned out to be a guy who got, you know, evil plastic surgery to be Steve Rogers. And then, turned into Hitler. But also, I guess there was evil Steve Rogers in the comics recently, too. Like the one who worked for Hydra. So that wouldn't even be that, like...
Right, because, like, somebody used a cosmic cube to rewrite history, so he was always a fascist or something.
Yeah. So, like, yeah, if you were going to get Chris Evans back for one of these, I don't know which one you would do, but you'd have to pick. You can't have it be both. Although if you wanted to do it, you like, it's funny because that actor, Wyatt Russell, I believe we learned he did audition originally for Captain America back in like 2010 or whatever. So you could do that where you get one of the other actors who was almost Captain America, like John Krasinski, to be crazy 1950s Cap, but then he's too likable, obviously, so he wouldn't turn into an evil dictator. Yeah. He's having a year. I mean, I guess that Quiet Place movies do pretty well, so I'm sure he's fine.
Yeah, the one that he was the least involved with.
Mm-hmm. And it's it's a great trailer for Captain America. We all loved it. What else? Any other interesting things? Any other random cameos that were in there that were like, wow, that guy again?
Incredible. I don't think so. I mean, I only watched it once as opposed to your, I assume, 70. So
yeah,
you would know better
all the characters. Me. Yep, I have the whole plot right here. I know the one thing that I do think is interesting that I think is not like a blink and you miss a thing, but it's there enough that I think you can like count it as a thing that is clearly in the trailer, is he's flying around the big celestial head in the water. We're probably finally going to have that thing that everyone complains about show up in the movies. And yeah, he'll stand on it and go,
Styles
you see?
Will descend from the heavens.
Yeah.
And be like, no, don't do anything with that.
Yeah, the island of Marvel cameos, they'll all be there. All those characters we named last week, because this keeps happening, will all be hanging out there and be like, yeah, this is where we've been the whole time. Also, She-Hulk is here now. Sorry, guys. She's locked on the island with us.
Oh, no.
Yeah, she's been replaced by X-Men 97. There are real guys in the universe now. Little cartoons running around. Everyone liked them. Yeah. But next week we'll do X-Men stuff probably. But this week, it's the second week of, and by second week of, we're like in the third week of the month of July, but we're in the second
grand,
month.
Mostly nitpicking tradition. We have decided to make a theme month halfway through the month.
After the second thing, we were like, oh, this could kind of rhyme with the month. And then we were like, this is July now. So congratulations, everybody. Welcome to July. It's Hugh Jackman's month. It does not have anything to do with, he didn't lie to us. It's not like that.
Well, maybe he did. We don't know.
That's true. You know what? Some people do. Yeah. In the characters, if you ask them, and I feel like we have to stop doing this. In in the movies when you have the characters show up as a surprise, like Andrew Garfield, and people ask him like, "Are you going to be in the movie?" And he's like, "I don't know, probably not." And then he is in the movie, and he's like, "I lied." You just can't. We can't ask them anymore because they'll lie or they won't. So why bother? You know, they'll tell us if they're in it.
Yeah, I feel like they should have known that before any of that happened. It's like, oh, does your character have a surprise cameo? It's like, what answer do you want from that question?
Actually, if you watch the movie at 50 minutes and 27 seconds, that's when I first show up. Here, you want to see my pages? I can show you my lines, and then I do die after 10 minutes, so don't bet too attached to Elektra from the Elektra movie everyone hates.
Oh, man.
Well, she's the one who did do that, I think, right? I think her actor was like, yeah, I think I'm in that Deadpool movie or something. And everyone was like, really? And she's like, yeah. And if you look at like the cast list for it, it's like Deadpool, Wolverine, you know, Cassandra Nova, Matthew McFadden's character, and her. So she better be important. I want a lot of scenes of her.
She ends up actually being the main character. The title is a misnomer.
Yeah. And I think, that's why it should have been Deadpool and Wolverine, asterisk, you know, because then the asterisk would have been and Elektra mostly. But that is the one superhero movie I don't think I've ever seen is the Elektra movie. Have you ever watched it?
Nope, never.
Yeah. Look at that. One of these days, probably.
Maybe in a bundle with Catwoman one day, we'll do Elektra.
Yeah, well, that I have very much seen. This one has it has the guy who did the voice of Kung Lao in Mortal Kombat X, the game, like the Elektra movie, and it also has Cary Hiroyuki Takawa, who very famously was Shang Tsung in the live-action Mortal Kombat movie. So a lot of Mortal Kombat.
The one that we liked.
Yeah, the one that's cool, where he says, "I will eat your soul" or whatever. That guy, he's sick. And oh man, is one of these characters supposed to be Typhoid Mary? Oh no, I gotta watch this. If we have to record an episode before Deadpool and Wolverine, it's definitely gonna be this. And we'll just watch it.
It doesn't come out till next week, right?
Yeah, well, it depends on kind of when we're able to film or record a podcast, because I don't know when, what DJ's schedule will be like, but yeah, this character in this, his name is Typhoid, and that's not a good sign.
You never want to be named Typhoid.
No, you don't. Especially not just Typhoid. If her name was Mary, I'd be like, oh yeah, that's like. But this character is just called Typhoid. Also, there's a character in the. Okay, we'll definitely eventually do this. But a character in this movie is named Mark Miller, which is a pretty
the comics writer.
I don't think so, but maybe that's what they're going for. I don't know. I haven't read enough Elektra comics to recognize all the random characters that are just kind of in it. Although,
if someone in the Elektra movie knifes Mark Miller, the comics writer, then you have to hand it to them.
Yeah, that might be a cool movie. We should we can lead the charge on that being a hidden gem or something. And then
that's true. I haven't heard that revisionism yet.
Yeah, it's one of the only ones left, honestly, because I've seen this movie we're talking about somewhat kind of revised as fun. No one said it's like great yet, but I think the thing seems to be, as Hollywood movies get worse or like more produced or something, all these weird movies. Yeah, generic's a good way to describe it. All these movies like Real Steel have their moment where it's like, that was better than this though. So yeah, we just need to get a little bit worse, and then that will lift Van Helsing up.
The worse the world gets, the more we like the bad movies from your childhood. Yeah.
And this one is a really specific one because, we're talking about Van Helsing this week. If you lie. This was a movie that came out in 2005, I want to say, which would make it the same year as Elektra. Oh, really? Okay. Let's see. Oh, yeah, you're right. 2004. So it was right as Hugh Jackman was coming off of X-Men 2. And this was a big, star vehicle for him. And it stars obviously him, Kate Beckinsale, and a bunch of other people, including, I think, Robbie Coltrane is in there, and then a bunch of little character actors. Right? Is that Robbie Coltrane doing the voice of Mr. Hyde?
I believe so. Yes.
Yeah. But yeah, I can't name any of the rest of them. And they're all, and this is a movie that, we decided to do because if you lie, I think with me, if you skip all the X-Men movies and then skip the movies I don't refuse to watch, like Greatest Showman, this is like the movie that in my head was the most connected to Hugh Jackman for a very long time. I don't know. Is that the same for you?
I feel like it's the biggest like Hollywood budget thing he did besides the X-Men movies in his early career, which is really slicing slicing it pretty thin.
Yeah.
To be fair,
it is. It's so strange too, because like, yeah, before X-Men, he was Kate and Leopold. That was the movie I feel like that existed that people had seen. And then after that, he did a bunch of movies that were like movies, like The Prestige, but that wasn't as much of a Hugh Jackman vehicle as like a Christopher Nolan piece with all these characters in it. And I feel like since then he's had movies that are like a Hugh Jackman movie, like Real Steel kind of, but those weren't at the peak of Hugh Jackman. Is like this was like right when it was like, what's this guy gonna be in Hollywood besides Wolverine? And it was like Wolverine, but a spy in the past or something, and also a cop who hunts Dracula. How is this movie not great? How did I just describe the best movie ever, and then instead it's this? You know, that sounds awesome. Wolverine in the past who hunts Dracula, but I don't know. We'll get to it. How are we going to do this game without DJ here, Diggins?
I mean, I feel like just the way we usually do it, which is that you and I both just take a crack at the summary and then we look at it at the same time and decide who did better.
Yeah. Would you like to? I guess I'm the loser, so you can go first. I will grant you that.
Oh, thank you. How very kind.
Yeah,
of you.
that honor. So, good luck with this one.
Okay. Van Helsing, an amnesiac monster hunter for the church, is sent to Transylvania to fight the monstrous vampire Count Dracula.
I like that. I like that it had monster in it twice. He's a monster hunter fighting the monstrous Dracula.
Well, it's the Universal Monsters universe of monsters, so you got to.
That's true. Yeah, that is the rules. I will say, mine's not too far from that, but I think I had a little bit different when I kind of envisioned this in my head. So I'll say, Van Helsing, he has to be a monster hunter, right? But is there another word for what he's doing? Okay, let's say after a mysterious incident in you know what, I'm not even gonna get fancy with it. I'm gonna say something kind of similar. Van Helsing travels to Transylvania to team up with a woman to fight Dracula and a werewolf. I'm just gonna name stuff in the movie and not describe any of it. So how did I do, Diggins? Did we both did great?
I feel like this is genuinely pretty tough because we both got some stuff.
Oh yeah.
So the actual one for the listeners at home is: the famed monster hunter is sent to Transylvania to stop Count Dracula, who is using Dr. Frankenstein's research and a werewolf for nefarious purposes. Really getting it all in there.
Yeah, they really did just name all the stuff except for the woman. So there's something count against me.
They wanted to name the things that mattered.
Yeah, did I call it Dracula or a vampire?
You did say Dracula. However, I said Count Dracula.
Yeah, you said Count Dracula.
But so, you mentioned a werewolf and I didn't.
Yeah, we both had some superfluous information. Both had werewolf, or both had Dracula.
We both said Monster Hunter in Transylvania.
Yeah, I honestly may not have said Monster Hunter. Heck, I might have just gone, he's Van Helsing. We're going to keep going. But yeah, I'm surprised the opposite,
where they don't say its
Van
name.
Helsing. Yeah. Like, that's pretty wild. I think you probably won. I'm gonna say, yeah, that you won this one.
I mean, I'll take it.
Yeah, it's tricky because I don't think either of us did amazing, but I do think by not going into any specifics about Mr. Van Helsing and then having the actual like summary, not say anything about him at all, or not say his name at all, it really kind of, we're summarizing two different movies as far as it's concerned. Yeah, so Diggins, what did you think of Van Helsing, 2004's Van Helsing?
Well, Nando, we talked earlier about how the more generic Hollywood movies get now, the better movies like this look. And you know what? It's kind of true. This movie kind of owns.
Yeah, it's pretty sick.
Now, it's not like, I can definitely see why it wasn't received well, because the CGI is pretty bad. And, and like the plot really falls apart towards the end. Like it kind of stops making sense.
What? They're just going from tower to tower, fighting guys, and then other guys are coming, and they're like, I'll take the guys. Yeah. And then they go, yeah.
And Dracula's like, I know all your stuff, Van Helsing. And Van Helsing's like, I don't care about all that.
Yeah. We already did this a movie ago in a different franchise. I'm tired of it.
Yeah. But,
oh my God. Yeah.
That being said, there's a very goofy sincerity to it that I found fun. Of just like really taking the premise of Van Helsing being a monster hunter who goes around fighting big old Mr. Hydes and big dumb werewolves and stuff. I don't know. It's something fun about it. I had a good time, so like I can't say I didn't like it. Yeah, I mean, again, I think it's the same thing as like with Real Steel last episode, where it's like, if I did see this at the time actually, and I don't really remember, I don't think I thought much of it either way. It didn't make much of an impression on me because watching it now, I didn't remember almost any of this.
Wow.
But you know, now when you compare it to more homogenized blockbusters, it's fun to get a throwback to a goofier time in Hollywood. So for that reason, I quite enjoyed it. And I mean, like, you know, Hugh Jackman is a good actor. You know, he is injecting some personality in there to some extent.
Yeah.
I mean, the character as written has almost none. So he's doing what he can.
But Diggins, he's got amnesia. How could he have any character, you know? He's just a default guy.
Yep, he's
like
just
me and you.
Yeah.
Default half Australian, half English, half American guy who you know, solves his problems with his fists.
Playing a Dutch character.
Yeah. I know I said last week that Hugh Jackman usually has good accents and stuff, but I should have put an asterisk next to that phrase because this movie seems to disprove that as well.
Yeah, when I was doing my usual like looking stuff up about the movie afterwards, there was a thing that was like, even though he's Australian, Hugh Jackman did a British accent for this movie. And I was like, did he?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Which lines? Yeah, sometimes I guess, but not most of the time. Like, especially considering everybody else in this movie was like, I'm fucking going all in on the accent. And they all did, except for him.
Yeah, all the people doing dumb, fake Romanian accents are killing it.
Oh my God, yeah. Yeah, like Dracula was amazing. I mean, not amazing, but like, yeah, he was the whole thing. And then, yeah, you just had Hugh Jackman in there going, hello, everyone, it's me, Hugh Jackman. And you're like, what the fuck is going on? This man could be from anywhere. Oh, he has amnesia. We'll never know.
I do. Speaking of Dracula, I think he might have been my favorite performer in the movie, though, because this guy is fucking going for it. Richard Roxburgh, I think we said his name was, and neither of us are really familiar with his work, but he's going all out in every scene. He clearly relished the chance to play Count Dracula, and I can't blame him.
Yeah, I'd say the thing that I most know this guy from, besides this, is he plays M in the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. And that movie came out right around the same time as this. And it's kind of the same bullshit. It's like, these are things from books. What if they were, the Avengers or whatever, the X-Men at the time? And then he was in Moulin Rouge as the bad guy of that, but I never saw that movie. So I assume he probably sings, though. He's got a hell of a voice.
Actually, I'm not sure the Duke ever sings, now that I think about it.
Oh, really? They should do that. They should make a second one where he sings, because I bet he's great. I bet he's got
I could be wrong about that, so don't come for me.
Pipes.
But I think the Duke is a non-singing role.
Interesting. I'm looking for whatever his next biggest role is for me in terms of other things I may have seen him in, because he works a lot, but a lot of it's stuff that you would never have heard of. Oh, he was in that movie Stealth. Remember Stealth? What if the plane could think? Oh my God. Yeah. It was like a jet movie. It was like a really sick jet. Jamie Foxx, Josh Lucas, who I think was the bad guy in the Hulk movie. Yeah. And he doesn't matter. And then Jessica Biel were pilots, like fighter pilots. But then the government invented a plane with like an AI brain that was going to make them all out of business. But then it went evil and they had to stop it. And yeah,
AI went evil? That never happens.
They were warning us. We didn't even listen. We probably watched Stealth and we went on a million years. Us idiots. Oh, he's in Mission Impossible 2. I don't remember what any of the characters in Mission Impossible 2 are, so that's probably not going to help.
Mission Impossible 2.
I know he's not Douglas Scott.
He's one of the 2 Mission Impossibles I've never seen.
Oh, which is the other one?
3.
Oh, 3's fun. I like 3. 2 has its moments. I mean, 2's the John Woo one, right? So like 2 it has a lot of style, but it is pretty stupid. And it has the worst hair. But I think 3 we should watch 3 one of these days. 3's good.
3's the J.J. Abrams one, isn't it?
It is. It's the one with Philip Seymour Hoffman, where he's like pretty fun. And there's some action sequences in 3 that I think hold up pretty well.
Okay.
It's okay. Like as a movie, it like has a lot of the J.J. Abrams problems that you could
say.
Like now we see them from a mile away, but at that time we were like, wow, this guy's so incredible and ingenious. He's twist on top of twist.
Yeah, the thing about that is I don't think J.J. Abrams has ever made a movie I liked. So
wow,
we'll see.
Not even that one Star Trek movie that's good, the first one.
I didn't really like it.
Or that third one that he didn't make. Oh no. Well, I mean, we'll definitely have to do that one of these days.
But which is to say,
I will say this guy also.
I'm sorry. You go.
Oh no, you go.
I was gonna say, which means it's unlike Van Helsing, a movie I liked, even though I recognize it's kind of bad, which is what I was theoretically talking about this whole time.
I see. Yeah.
What about you, Nando?
I was gonna say,
what did you think?
Yeah. I loved it. I've seen this movie a million times. I saw it when I was like 10 or whatever. How old would I have been? 2004. So, I was like 15. So yeah, this was probably like, they probably had my picture on the board the whole time next to the camera, and every day, Steven Summers or whatever pointed at it and said, we're making this for him. And then everybody went, all right, let's put our best foot forward. And
they had that Simpsons board where they had a bunch of pictures of you covering up letters, so it said do it for him.
And it worked because this movie, I loved it. Besides loving Hugh Jackman because of Wolverine, and I think he's very entertaining in this, even though his accent's insane, and like his whole thing is really weird. Like the more time you spend with the Van Helsing character, the more it's like, we could just not do any of this stuff and he could just be Hugh Jackman. That's fine. We don't need to bother with his destiny, but whatever. It's okay. And the more weapons he brings out, the more I love him. But then on top of that, all the bullshit where it's like, what if Dracula knew Frankenstein and he had werewolves as pets and stuff? And, Mr. Hyde was also a bad guy doing stuff. And, this was a video game.
The Hunchback of Notre Dame also? Question mark?
Yeah. It's just great. I love that. I forgot about that until that's one of the things, because I do remember almost everything from this movie except that. That kind of took me by surprise this time. There's a lot of things in this movie that I don't think I appreciated as a kid. Like the bits where the Pope is like You know, you did too much collateral damage, Van Helsing. That guy's great. And like, I even appreciate that more. Obviously, when I was 15 and now Kate Beckinsale was like the greatest thing ever. This really feels like I'm part of that that era too of like The Mummy and this and like The Rocketeer with these really genuine kind of like action movies where the guy and the girl had chemistry. And this is really pushing it, but it almost works. And it's like that's something I feel like we just don't really do that well anymore. No. And it's a shame.
This was directed by the guy who directed the first two Mummy movies.
That's right. Yeah. And it does have a lot of the same trappings of that, where like with The Mummy, they also kind of go through all of the, like, cause this movie has, you know what, actually, this would have been cool if they crossed over. They should have done that for sure. Cause this Dracula is the same as that Mummy, which you've never seen it, but like The Mummy is kind of built on all the Mummy cliches where like, if you kind of know one, you'd be like, can he, you know, control this? And it's like, he can, but then other things that you think will kill him wouldn't, because that's just a silly legend. And that's how they treat Dracula in this, where like all the classic Dracula things will kill everyone but Dracula. So it's like, so I guess it's kind of like, instead of taking this seriously and treating it like literary characters or whatever, it treats Dracula and The Mummy treats The Mummy as a pop culture character kind of put into this world, and it makes it super accessible, and you can just mess with it and nobody cares. Like it, you know, I mean, I'm sure there's hardcore Dracula fans at the time that watch this. Like, absolutely not. But this is also during peak vampire, like right before Twilight and right after all the Anne Rice movies were adapted.
And Kate Beckinsale was right off of Underworld.
That's right. Yeah, she was crushing it in Underworld. They made like 8 of those or something. So she was like the vampire person. And yeah, it was like, so I think this was just, yeah, it was perfectly positioned to be the greatest movie ever. It had a video game that was pretty much like watching the movie, which is always good. Where if you don't like, you know, and you know what, he had weapons that it's like, this better be for a video game or something, because he's not using this nearly enough. Yeah, it's just pretty weird. I would say my one thing, and I'm really upset that DJ didn't get to watch this one. It's a little long, longer than I expected. And when you get to the third act, and they're like, oh, here's how we get to the third act. And then there's like 2 castles. You're like, wait, we're going to have to do 2 things here? And it's like, yeah, we're going to have to split up. But I mostly liked it. And like, I think it's entertaining. It's definitely not good in terms of being like, you know, a good movie, but I think it like succeeds on its own terms more or less. And I think it does really go for it with Dracula. And I remember loving him as a kid and continuing to love him. You know what else is crazy about this movie that I didn't recognize? And I don't think this is true. He may be one of the he is. It's a video game character. Because the only person that doesn't reprise their voice for the video game is Kate Beckinsale. Surprise, surprise. But everybody else is there, really? Including Igor. Yep. Oh, yeah. This was back in the day where you could get the stars for the video game, because he also voiced Wolverine in the Wolverine video game that'll come out a few years later. That's really good. But yeah, him, you know, Richter Roxborough, all those guys. Oh, maybe not maybe not his little friend. His friend might not have been in the video game.
Igor?
It was no. Igor Carl. Is Carl, I don't think.
Carl not be in the video? Carl's clearly the tutorial man who's like,
right?
Helsing, here's how you use all your weapons.
Yeah, I guess it would have been the Pope or whatever would have had to do that. Although I don't see him on
Instead
of that,
we had Van Helsing, here's how you use all your weapons.
Van Helsing, don't use the machine gun. It's too expensive. But if you have to, press a B. But the guy, oh yeah, because here he is, Cardinal Jeanette. But Kevin O'Connor plays Igor, and I didn't realize this until having seen it just this time. That is also the same actor from The Mummy who plays Benny, the kind of sleazy like guy who is there the whole time and is like doing a really weird voice, and it's the same character.
Tim Curry
and
from Congo.
It's yeah, kind of. He's Tim Curry from Congo, but if he was the like guide that you hired from the bazaar or something, right? Like he's not pretending to be a high status character. He's like a guy who sucks the whole time, and he's going to betray everybody at the first like opportunity. That's kind of what this character Benny is. And then Igor is kind of the same energy, although it's a little bit different. Well, he does betray his main character at the first option, like when, that comes up.
Well, is it a betrayal, Nando? Because he pays me.
Yeah, he pays you. What happened to Igor? Did Dr. Frankenstein not pay you at all? Were you his slave? Is this an internship?
It does. We're getting into describing the movie now, but it does seem like Dracula gave Frankenstein all the resources to do this because he wanted the research. So probably he hired Igor to be Frankenstein's assistant.
Well, that makes sense. So yeah, just in the org chart, it's like maybe Dr. Frankenstein gave Igor his check, but like realistically, it all came from Dracula.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That makes sense. I guess the way he said it, it almost felt like he was like, but you don't pay me. I don't know. It's a weird line. But I'm going to summarize this movie because I lost.
That's right.
And
that's how it works. And we're going to remember before the wheel this time.
That's right. Yeah. I'm very happy with everybody who, oh yeah.
Yeah. The exact
thing. So many people came in. And they all, not all of them, but at least most of them left their posts up in shame, which is good. That's what you have to do. So, yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, we'll start. Okay, so I'll do this one. And unlike apparently part of the discourse on the thing, I'm going to have the movie go in the background, even though this is one of the only times I think I could do it without it. Just because there's too many details I think I'll forget that are fun.
I think that's fine. I only disagreed with the Wikipedia thing because that would be really boring.
Yeah, the Wikipedia thing wouldn't be fun unless it was a really bad Wikipedia. But even then it would be like, well, what are we summarizing? We're giving them no information. We're telling them another wrong version of the movie. But this one, I think, this way I think is good. I feel like I should have to do it at take the movie at 10x speed and just try to keep up with it, but I don't know how to do that on VLC, so we're not going to bother. But yeah, the movie starts in the olden days.
The streaming service that you're legally watching.
That's right. Well, VLC is in video, legitimate video, legitimate channels.
That's
which is streaming services. Sometimes it's a little disc. To be fair, I definitely have this disc at home somewhere. I have bought this movie before, and I did it again. So here we are. So anyway, yeah, on this legitimate video thingy, I'm just gonna roll through it real quick. I love the beginning of this movie because it's in black and white, which tricks you into thinking the movie takes place in the past, but then it's going to take place in the present when it's in color, but that's not the case. They just did it because the old Universal vampire movies were like that and stuff, and that's great. It starts in 1887 for anybody that's curious. I don't know, is that Diggins, because you've read Dracula, is that the year that Dracula did his thing or something, or is that the year Frankenstein did his thing?
I don't know exactly. I mean, they were written. Frankenstein was written much earlier. Dracula was written around that time.
Okay, that makes sense. And yeah, a lot of villagers are storming Castle Frankenstein because of crazy experiments going on there, mostly grave robbing, and then they're like, we're not cool with that. Especially, this charge seems to have been led by the grave digger, who's kind of the mayor of this town, maybe, but also just because grave robbing seems to be such a big problem, he's become the expert at that. So he's like, we're gonna break and account Frankenstein's house or Castle Frankenstein or whatever. And we see inside of it, Frankenstein's working on an experiment with electricity and stuff, but also he's working for Dracula, who is a man with a little, coat thingy and then long hair. And his whole deal is he's got a humongous accent and every time the camera cuts to a different shot, he's in the background of that shot or something.
He can teleport.
It's pretty cool. He can teleport, and he can walk on walls like Spider-Man in a way that is pretty funny sometimes, but also like whenever they do this in a movie, I'm like, that looks pretty bad. But then every so often I'm like, they probably actually had the actor hanging upside down for this shot, and I feel bad for him. They probably hated this day, but whatever. Like we're saying, Igor is there, and Igor quits because he doesn't get paid by Dr. Frankenstein. He gets paid by Count Dracula. And he's like a, weird monster guy. Frankenstein tries to kill Dracula. Doesn't work. Dracula instead, impales himself on the sword because he's cool. And then he kills Frankenstein, which at that point, because the experiment is done, he doesn't even need Frankenstein anymore. So whatever. And it's like, what's this experiment? Doesn't matter. We'll find out later, but there's no explanation for it. Besides,
we know what Frankenstein's experiment is. We don't know why Dracula.
Right. Yeah, we don't know what the connection is there. Besides, just they're all the monsters from the monster movies. So here they are at the same time. Dracula's like, all right, I killed Frankenstein. Sick. Frankenstein's monster, or as he'll be known in the movie, Frankenstein. Let me use you for stuff. And then he gets up and throws a big piece of machinery like the Hulk at Dracula, and then runs away with Dr. Frankenstein in his arms. So then Dracula has to try to go get him, but Frankenstein and Frankenstein's doctor go to the iconic windmill from the Universal Dark Universe of roller coasters and stuff.
Yeah, the iconic windmill that we'll all be going to in the theme park in a couple of years.
And hopefully we'll all walk onto it and stand at the top and yell our little opera voice like, no way, or something, because this is Frankenstein. He's got a voice. And he is like, oh no, everyone's going to kill me. And also Dracula's going to kill me. But unfortunately for Dracula, who just flies out of the castle ready to get him, the windmill that he's on explodes and collapses and stuff under his weight. And then he's lost forever. And this is a big problem for Dracula, because something about that, experiment was useful to him for some reason. Mm-hmm. Now
Dracula's don't even bother searching the rubble. I don't even care anymore. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. No one could survive something like that. Not even a man who was brought back to life earlier today, made of giant body parts and a big whirly green thing in his head. Those break immediately. Cut to present day. Another guy, and now we're in color, and it's barely color. It's blue mostly, but it's present day. An Indiana Jones figure with a little mask over his face that looks like an eye, of conspiracies and stuff, is hunting a guy in Notre Dame who we will learn is Mr. Hyde. Much like League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, they have decided Mr. Hyde is the Hulk, and that's how he works. And now he's a bad guy eating people and sheep and stuff. And Van Helsing is going to arrest Mr. Hyde or kill him or something, because the church has said that he has to. So this Van Helsing character works for the church, and he has a big fight with Mr. Hyde that is in the video game. I remember this very well. That ends with him using all of his various machines and stuff, because he's got little arm blades that pop out of his sleeves and are little saws, which is great. Very specific kind of use case, I guess, for that we never really see. We see them being used, but it's not like the crucifix, where it's oh, I understand why they gave him that, is so he can fight a Dracula. With this, it feels like he just was it'd be cool if you guys gave me a big chainsaw hand. And they were we'll give you two.
Are you sure you don't want a sword of Van Helsing? And he's like, no, yeah, I want the big dumb chainsaw hand things.
Yeah, this really does seem like the video game leading the movie for a second, because it is a very specific weapon that doesn't have anything to do with Van Helsing as far as I know, but does make a pretty fun video game thing. You see other stuff. He has a grappling hook like Batman, and he's pretty much Batman for the beginning of this movie. He throws Mr. Hyde around, ends up throwing him through the window in Notre Dame, where he dies, turns right back into Dr. Jekyll very quickly, and then yeah, it's a whole disaster. I mean, it's great because he killed that guy, but he goes to church, goes to confession, and the confession person, this cardinal, is like doing that conversation that Eddie Murphy always has with his chief of police, who's like, you broke too many cars, Axel Foley, you're getting this division in a lot of trouble. And then the confessional goes down into a secret area like in Wonka, and it turns out that this cardinal has a humongous ring of guys from all over, all different walks of life, doing science and stuff down here and creating weapons for Van Helsing, who seems to be, although we never really get a sense for this, one of many Van Helsing types running around doing Van Helsing stuff. I can't imagine he's the only one of these, right?
They must have more than one agent. They're the church.
Right. Yeah. I imagine if they ever were able to connect this to the Mummy movie, they would be connected to the Templar guys that are in that. Or not Templars. What are they? What is the Magi guys that are the heroes of that? And then they would be connected to kind of all the other, I don't know, mythological characters through whatever their hero is. They would all be part of this mystical order. But anyway, the Pope or the Cardinal shows him a little projection that's like, this is the story of the people from this country. First, he tells him the story of Dracula. He's like, Dracula sucks. That guy's bad. Did all kinds of stuff with the devil. But then he's like, there was this other family that was their deal was they had to kill Dracula. And if they didn't do it before, if they didn't do that, they would all go to stay in purgatory or go to hell.
They wouldn't be allowed in heaven. He said, no member of my family will go to heaven until Dracula is dead. And me, I'm sitting there like, you could have just not said that.
Yeah, 100%.
Nobody made you say
invent Dracula. Yeah. And also when they're talking about it being purgatory, I'm like, purgatory's not as good as heaven, but it's not the worst option for you guys. Like, there are, as far as personal stakes go, I think it could be much worse. This family is down to its last two people, a brother and sister that seem to be more than a brother and sister, but don't worry about that. The brother's name is Velcan, and the sister's name is Anna or something like that.
Yeah, just Anna.
Yeah, and she's going to yell his name a lot, so that's how I remember it. But they are the last two, so they have to kill Dracula. If they don't, none of this family gets into heaven, which is the concern of the church. That's the whole reason he's going here. It's also kind of kill Dracula because Dracula's up to some stuff, but that is like the mission that he's sent on, which is great.
Also, they are briefly said to be a slur for Roma royalty, like they're king and queen or something, or prince and princess.
Which is strange because I guess it makes sense. Like, they live in the city in Transylvania, I guess, that's like next to Dracula's house. But they're not the mayor of that, obviously. The gravedigger seems to be in charge of it. But also, like, I assume they're like doing great, right? They wear kind of fancy clothes compared to everybody else there.
Yeah,
like,
and they live in a
like the
big
king of
mansion.
Yeah. So, like, yeah, what's going on here? That's not usually how those guys work.
I mean, first of all, the whole thing about Roma is they had a nomadic lifestyle, so they wouldn't have a big mansion, I don't think. Now, I don't know that much about Roma, so maybe I'm wrong about that, but that's my understanding. Secondly, famously, not liked by the other people in the lands where they were. So I don't know why this whole town would be listening to them.
Right? Because, I could definitely see a version of this movie where these characters are like, there's Dracula's guys, watch out. And everybody in the town is like, you idiots, no one listens to you. Here's the slur again. But instead, they are like leading little expeditions and traps to get werewolves and to, like, fight Dracula's kind of, although they don't seem to really fight Dracula's, but they are aware of Dracula and what Dracula's up to. So they're not treated like, crackpots. They're just doing great. Like, they're crushing it. But yeah, so Kate Beckinsale is the sister, and then the brother doesn't matter. But we find them in the middle of a big mission where they're trying to capture a wolf man, which So what's the difference between Wolfman and werewolf? This is a werewolf, right? Because of the moon.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that like the Wolfman and werewolf is a distinction per se. I think people just call them things at different times. But yeah, this appears to be working under full moon rules for werewolves, which is you only transform under the full moon, except for this scene, I think, which is during the day.
Yep. Yeah. And the full moon counts as like if full moon light is touching you directly from the moon. If there's anything, any cloud cover, I would assume if you're indoors, it also kind of disappears. But there's a lot of time when characters, because a cloud goes overhead, are like, oh, cool, we're safe. And then the vampires all have to like run away. So like, again, this movie takes all of the rules of all of these guys and kind of mushes them together into one thing. So anything you think you've ever heard about how do you kill the Dracula, they'll bring that up in this movie. By the way, I didn't bring this up yet. There's a guy who is a little kind of Igor fellow for Van Helsing, who comes from the church, and he's a little friar, and he has all the weapons, and he's kind of cowardly, but he's going on this trip with Van Helsing.
He's the wacky sidekick.
That's pretty much it. Yeah, he's got a little voice, and he's smaller than Van Helsing, which isn't that hard because Hugh Jackman's quite tall. But I feel like this actor's probably pretty tall in real life, too. I wonder if they had him like on a little hunch, like on his knees. I don't know. But yeah, Hugh Jackman is famously 6'3", which is too tall for Wolverine, right around the right height for Van Helsing. So, and
well, Van Helsing at least.
That's true. Yeah, I don't know if this is the biblical Van Helsing, but yeah, action movie Indiana Jones, Van Helsing, perfect. And yeah, for people, we haven't described this yet. Van Helsing wears a big raincoat kind of thing, like big giant jacket, and then a big cowboy like Indiana Jones hat, and it's all black. And he also wears black under that, and he's got long hair and like a kind of beard, little bit of a beard, but like he's a real rough and tumble character, wearing an insane amount of leather at all times, like 5 layers, and it just seems humongous, especially when this character will like dive into water and stuff like that. It's like, take off your coat, dude, you're gonna drown. But whatever, he's pretty good. So him and him and his little guy go on a really long, much longer than you'd expect scene of them kind of traveling. They travel far and wide to Transylvania, where they manage to like find a village full of people that are dealing with Dracula stuff. Where this is where they meet Kate Beckinsale, and they have a little bit of flirting, but also a little bit of like mischief, like trouble happens, because this is when some of Dracula's brides, I think all 3 of them show up in this scene, but they split up, and some of them go after her, some of them go after him. They go after her because she's important. Obviously, they understand like she's important for the plot. They go after him because he has a chain or like a machine gun of arrows that he's using to shoot at them, and they're like, this guy is up to something.
Although I do want to say, we can talk about this later as possibly part of the wheel or at the end of the summary. You say she's important to the plot. Hey, by the end of the movie, why?
I don't know. I mean, well, I guess she's important to the plot for the reasons that the priest said, but not for the reasons that the plot is going to say as the movie goes on. But it's like they know what the priest or the cardinal said, and they're like, we got to at least kind of stick with that for a while. It also seems like maybe Dracula kind of not like likes her, but like maybe he's like kind of obsessed with this family, because they are trying to hunt his werewolves, which we will learn and what's in the summary are agents of Dracula, kind of. Although they are also treated as beasts like Dracula. They don't just like do whatever Dracula says, but he'll send them out for stuff. So maybe he's like, these pesky people, these pesky brother and sister killing all my werewolves, so I need to do something about them. The brides are all, just like women, but then when they get into like out of the sunlight or whatever, they turn into like big giant bat guys, which is what Dracula is. It's just kind of like man bat or whatever, where they're the size of a human, but they have big talons. It looks weird. There's some things in this movie that I think look okay, CGI wise and stuff, and this is maybe the thing that I have the biggest problem with, mostly just because we see this a lot. So yeah, they shoot him a lot. We'll get to exactly how, and they manage to kill one of them. The other 3 run away, or the other 2 run away, because when one of them dies, the other 2 have to like convulse for a little bit and fly away. So it's lucky because it's right as they're about to kill Kate Beckinsale. Oh yeah, also Kate Beckinsale's brother died or something in the first werewolf incident.
He got knocked off a cliff shooting in the werewolf with a silver bullet. And
that's right.
You hear a splash and she looks down and there's no sign of either of them, and you're like, he's definitely dead and not showing up again. That's what this means in a movie.
Yeah, it's very and it's something that a lot of characters will fall off a cliff in this. There's a couple of things that like you could tell Stephen Sommers was like, I'd like to do this. And then he took a long break, like a week, and then wrote the next page of the script and went, you know what would be a good idea? This. And then it just keeps happening and happening and happening. And characters falling off a cliff is one of those things. It's not the only one, but it is a big thing, a big repeating little action beats. So brides of Dracula are like, Dracula, no, our whatever, I don't know, sister wife thing. Yeah, she's dead. And Dracula's like, oh no, well, it's okay, because really I'm almost ready to fulfill my thing, because what I need to do is I need to power my machine with something, and I can use a werewolf for that. Dracula believes, at least. Also, and we'll get into this a little bit during the wheel, there's no there's no Frankenstein anymore. No Dr. Frankenstein. Obviously, we'll see Frankenstein, the name of the monster, later. Dracula has an army of like minion guys or something.
Dwergy.
The little... Yeah, is that a thing from the book or something?
They made that up.
Okay. Yeah, it's guys... It's little Ewok characters. They speak a little language. They go... And then Dracula orders them around.
They're like a mixture of Ewok. They're more like Jawa, I think, than Ewoks.
Yeah, that's true. They're better. Also Jawa's a better comparison. Yeah. And they, and these are just like in all the scenes, in the backgrounds of like every scene with Dracula, there's just a lot of little guys going, blah, 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 and like picking up a big thing. It's really weird. So then Van Helsing and this woman flirt a lot, which is going great, kind of, except he drugs her, but that doesn't really go anywhere. It's weird. But then
it seems like he drugs her so that she won't go out in the middle of the night and get herself killed, except he does it during the day and then she wakes up at night. So it's like, it's a bad plan, Van Helsing.
Yeah, and like wakes up at night, like not like chained to a radiator or something, like so she can't do werewolf stuff. Not that he thinks she's a werewolf, but like just like totally immediately is ambushed by a werewolf. So it didn't work at all. And the werewolf is her brother now. I mean, that's not exactly how the scene plays out, but from how it starts, you're like, oh, that's the werewolf. And that's a problem.
To be fair to them, they really don't play this close to the chest for very long.
Yeah. And it's cool. Like, you know, it's another more personal stakes, but also kind of a, you know, more of a coincidence than anything else. Because I feel like if any other townsperson had fallen down the ravine and shot him with the thing, they'd be the werewolf, and then they'd be going over to her now, and she'd be like, I think I know you from town. But instead, it's her brother. And she's really conflicted about that. Van Helsing tries to try to kill him. Doesn't work. Big werewolf fight. And then they go to Castle Frankenstein, because that's where this shit usually happens. They're able to follow the werewolf to there. But this is the first time Dracula is going to turn on the machine, which is the Frankenstein machine from earlier. But instead of having Frankenstein in, he puts a werewolf in it. Now, what this is going to do, and our characters will find this out as they sneak into his cave, there's a lot of little guys, little pods of goo. And they put the werewolf on that table and then crank it up to the sky so it can get hit by lightning. And then somehow the magic of that is going to transfer like the life energy of the werewolf into all of these little guys and then birth Dracula's children. This was obviously originally created with Frankenstein in mind, but we don't have Frankenstein. So it's kind of settling for this. All the little children turn on and turn into little bat guys that you would see in like a Harry Potter movie or something. They're not like kids, like babies. They are like pure little vampire guys. So that was interesting.
They're like the little devil guys from Night on Bald Mountain.
Ooh, I don't know what that is, but they are like little devil guys.
Fantasia sentiment with the big demon.
Oh yeah, they are like that. Yeah. That's a good That's a good comparison. And it's fun because they just go to town and start killing people. And there's like a little bit of an acknowledgement early when Van Helsing gets to the town, and everybody's like, what did you do? You killed the Dracula. We're going to get in so much trouble. And it's like, what are you talking about? And they're like, well, we kind of got to deal with Dracula where he doesn't kill too many of us, but he kills enough of us to feed off of us. And like, we can kind of live with that. We're really more concerned about the werewolf business. But now it's like, now they need to feed on everybody. So this humongous thing of guys comes and just starts ripping dudes off the ground, like that pterodactyl scene in Jurassic Park or Jurassic World, including one woman who almost gets killed, but then our little friar guy saves her. And we'll get to that later. But because the magic was bad, or it wasn't enough magic or something, they all explode. And it's like, bummer for Dracula, great for everybody else. And Dracula's like, oh man, I need to do something else because otherwise they'll just keep exploding. At this point, Dracula meets Van Helsing, and Dracula is going like, oh, Van Helsing, I recognize you from somewhere. And I think at this point he does name him Gabriel. Mm-hmm. And also Dracula, so we've learned that you can kill Dracula's brides by like shooting them with holy water and stuff. But you can't do that with Dracula. All your usual Dracula rules work on everyone but Dracula, who's able to just like kind of tank, a big cross and then burn it. So that's pretty cool. But like, yeah, we're gonna have to figure out a new way to kill Dracula. So they all run away. And it's like the town's destroyed or whatever. Luckily, our heroes find by complete coincidence, I guess they're going to investigate. Well, no, they're not. Are they? Is he just going to get drunk? Why are they in the place where Frankenstein is at all?
I think they fall in because of the attack. I
guess that must be it. But why are they there? Because like Frankenstein's there, Van Helsing's there drinking, but I don't know if they're going there to investigate because they're like, this is an important place.
I think they were looking for Dracula's castle because no one can find it, and they don't find it. And so he's like getting some well water while they're like, oh, what do we do now?
Yeah. And they're about to have some absinthe, which is pretty cool. And it does seem like if this scene doesn't end with them falling into a little cave, they're going to bone down. And great, good for them. But they fall into a little cave and find a big old giant zombie guy who turns out to be the character we all know and love, Frankenstein. Yep. And
now you might be saying, like, do you mean Frankenstein's creator? And we mean nope. The original Frankenstein.
Yep. Which the movie, yeah. This is why, man. We all called him Frankenstein for a while, is because this movie tricked us. So it's this movie's fault.
I mean,
and he's like,
that started a long time before this movie.
This movie is what I will blame my Frankenstein knowledge on. But yeah, it probably came from other stuff too. But yeah, this guy shows up and he's like a guy, but he's, he's got a heart of gold, and he's both monster and man.
In the little jar on his chest.
That's right. Yeah, he's got a jar on his chest, and like I was kind of describing before, his head has like a little spinny green thing in it that you can see that's his little, brain. And Van Helsing. Okay, so this is kind of important. Van Helsing, because he is both a monster himself, kind of, and like and sees all of the evil of the world, knows that this is not evil. There's something else at play. Whereas Kate Beckinsale's like, let's cut its head off. So he's like, no. I'll call the church. I'll see what they want me to do. But for now, we got to keep this guy to ourselves because it seems like Dracula's after him.
Who does and does not want to kill random monsters is just constantly changing throughout this movie.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Especially because like the way Dracula, and so like obviously Dracula's a bad guy. Werewolves, I guess you would assume some of them, if you never knew that the werewolves were people, and they just jumped at you, like, oh, well, I gotta shoot that. But then we know from the jump, at least Van Helsing knows from the jump, that the one werewolf is the brother, and he is totally cool with like lighting it on fire and shooting it and stuff. and like kind of your brother is gone. He's the werewolf now. But for some reason, he knows Frankenstein is not like that and is totally, like a full guy. And I guess we'll find out later there's a cure for werewolves, but technically it wouldn't have worked on the brother. But still, it's like, I don't know, man. Put it in a box and see if you can figure something out. Like, trap it. Dracula was able to, so why can't you? But it doesn't matter. So they're given, Frankenstein is put in a little carriage with the little guy, the friar, and they're put on a little trail to go back to the Vatican, I guess, or something. It's like they'll have to go through like, a mountain or whatever they had to do to get here. But yeah, I guess maybe they would have been able to do that. I don't know. It's maybe there's a long way that you would take if you had this, and they took the short way because there was two of them on the first way. But anyway, there's a big chase scene here where one of the brides shows up, probably both of them, and the werewolf, and it's just like a mess for Van Helsing. He keeps getting thrown around, and then the brides manage to toss the carriage off of the cliff, and they're like, oh, right, let's go in the carriage and get the Frankenstein from there. But then it turns out there's a different carriage just off screen, written by Kate Beckinsale, with all the people we thought were in the first carriage in it. And the actual carriage just has a bunch of dynamite and some stakes, and they're able to kill another one of the brides in this trap.
Fortunately, this first carriage was totally invisible to vampires until this moment.
Exactly. Yeah. It was on a secret road that was next to the other road, I guess. It's like one of those highways that splits off to the ramp where you can exit, and then the express one, and he's on the express one. It's so stupid. But then, they have a big fight with the werewolf. This carriage also bursts into flames, and I think they kill the werewolf, but the Dracula does manage to get the Frankenstein. No, Dracula gets Kate Beckinsale. Excuse me. And there's a trade. They have to make a trade. And there's a scene in a masquerade ball. Doesn't really matter. And they pretty much do trade guys. So now Dracula has Frankenstein. So he's able to use this machine. And Van Helsing has Kate Beckinsale again. And they have to come up with a plan. But they still can't find Dracula's castle. Except for also the guy from earlier. The friar guy's like, I actually figured this out maybe about 20 minutes a movie ago. There's like a little painting. We go through that. We're good.
And then they state an answer to the riddle and like why it works very confidently. So you're like, okay. But then you think about it and you're like, wait, what does any of that mean?
Yeah, it's nonsense. And it's also like, I don't know. I guess like I enjoyed this movie, and I really do like this masquerade scene because it's like very stupid. But yeah, it really nothing important happens. That couldn't have just happened by Dracula getting the Frankenstein in that one scene and leaving the Kate Beckinsale, but whatever. So they go to Dracula's castle, which turns out to have there's a secret entrance, and it's this weird ice wall thing that at certain points in the movie, at least once, Dracula went into, and you're like, what the fuck is that? And then later it's like he's got a secret ice wall. And
also the brother tried to give a hint about this earlier, but what he said is Dracula's castle moo. And now I'm thinking, I'm like, what could that possibly have been?
I don't know. I have no idea. It's pretty weird. Everybody goes through this thing and into this world. And basically, okay, so Frankenstein is in a big block of ice, and he's being put into the machine, and they put the machine together. He's going to get electrocuted and make all the babies. This is, I think, where we discover that A, there's a cure for werewolves in a little jar, but also B, Frankenstein is a werewolf, Van Helsing is a werewolf.
Say Frankenstein's not a werewolf.
That would be a real big problem for Dracula. But yeah, Van Helsing is part werewolf, but because he has not transformed yet until the first full moon of his that he has to go through, he can still be brought back to being a man as long as he gets this cure.
It's like midnight on the first full moon of your werewolfism, which is confusing because he gets bit presumably like a day or two after this happened with her brother Velkin. And like, And then when he gets bit, they're like, there's 2 days until the next full moon. And it's like, well, hold on. Full moons happen a certain amount of days in a row, and then they don't happen again for a month.
This was before then. This was before like we ruined the ozone layer, and it was a month. It used to be you'd get a full moon every 2 days, but it's slowed down because of pollution.
And now you might be thinking like, well, they just traveled for a while on the way to the Vatican. But they get from Budapest to back to Dracula's castle and the town with Anna's mansion and all in a day. So it can have been. Yep.
Yeah, there's no like, it does feel like this movie would need a bit where, you know, they're clearly on the train, or not the train, on the little caravan thingy, and then it cuts to 2 weeks later or something, and then we learn that it's a 2-week trip or something, so that the time can pass. But yeah, they don't bother with any of that. Also, Van Helsing has access to werewolf powers, like jump and pull and like throw guys, without actually turning into a werewolf. So that makes him sort of a match for Dracula when they fight. Also, there was this whole thing about like what can kill a Dracula, and there's something about maybe a werewolf doing it, and something about the left hand of God or something. And that's just a little mystery we'll never be able to figure out. Even the friars completely perplexed by this. But there's a big fight between, first of all, everybody runs around and like jumps and swings and lands and stuff. While that's happening, Van Helsing as a werewolf, it's in a big fight with Dracula as Dracula, and they just like tumble around and turn into monsters and stuff. It's pretty awesome. And then he kills the Dracula, which is pretty cool. But then he's still part werewolf, so how can we possibly stop him? Until they the what's her name, Kate Beckinsale, Anna shows up. Yeah, Anna, and she's about to save him, but then he jumps on her, and right at the perfect time, otherwise he would have stayed werewolf forever, she's able to use the cure on him, but also he kills her, I guess. But because Dracula's dead and the curse is broken, she is able to ascend into heaven with her family, and all is well. This is a good ending for her, as opposed to bad. Frankenstein's just able to leave. I don't know where he thinks he's going to go, but he's going to go somewhere.
He goes away on a little raft, which is how that book actually ends.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. Good for him. I imagine he'll, I don't know where it's going. Do we know where Frankenstein like wants to go in the book? Like what his plan is?
I think he's just leaving. I think it's implied he kind of just like wanders the earth, learning stuff, talking to people. Because he's right.
That makes sense.
He's like intelligent in the book. Like he's not a mindless dude. So this is actually one way in which this movie is more accurate.
That's right. And the other ways are all the backflips, right?
Yep. That's the other thing.
The other stuff that was in, That's why
if you read Dracula
back in the day,
there's actually whole chapters about all the sick backflips everybody does.
It's pretty cool. And you're like, they didn't even need that backflip at all. And it's like, well, it was in the book, obviously. Otherwise, why would she have done it? She didn't go anywhere. It didn't do anything. But
now whatever. There is...
Oh, also all the other brides are killed. It's cool.
There is actually a character in the Dracula novel who is a Texan with a big knife. So that's fun.
Who's that?
His name's Quincy Morris, I believe.
Oh, I thought it was going to be Jack Knife from the from the Man with the Iron Fists, and his knife turned into a little saw blade, kind of like Van Helsing. And I was like, oh, is that where they got that from? But it's not.
No, but he, Dracula spoilers. He's the one who gets the killing blow on Dracula himself.
Oh, man. But an American didn't write that, right?
No, Bram Stoker was British.
Did an American finish it? Bram Stoker died and there was an American. It's like, I think I know what he was going for. Here comes Jack Scallion and he's going to go kill Dracula with a big knife. It's like, has that ever been established as a thing Dracula's been? It hasn't been established, but it's been implied. Having read the text a couple of times, I think I know where this is going. And that'd be pretty cool. That's how those Game of Thrones books are going to have to end. Mm-hmm. It'll be that guy shows up with a big knife.
You know what?
Unless we...
Wouldn't be worse than the show ending.
And listen, You know, if George R. R. Martin dies between July 19th, when we record this, and when this podcast goes out, we didn't know about it. It was a surprise to us, too. You could go at any time. But yeah. Oh, yeah. Also, we learned that Van Helsing's the angel Gabriel or something. It doesn't matter.
It seems to be the implication, but there's no answers are forthcoming.
The one thing Dracula does make clear is that he and Van Helsing have been having this tussle over years and years and years, longer than you would assume this character is alive.
Would you say it's a game of bat and mouse?
Oh, it's a game of bat and mouse. That's right. It is. And he's very, he's got like he's like not like Wolverine doesn't look old. Like Van Helsing doesn't look old in this. But he has amnesia, and he's played by the actor who plays Wolverine. So if I hear that from this character, I also assume he's been alive forever, even though that's never stated until Dracula says it much later in the movie. So it's just kind of a product of, bad timing in terms of these movies being close enough together that you could just kind of substitute Wolverine's backstory for this guy. Even though I would imagine this movie takes place around when movie Wolverine is born. Like
sometime in the 1800s, typically, right?
Yeah, something like that. So I wonder if that's just a coincidence. Maybe that's why they said it in 1889. I don't know. This movie's weird. That's the end of it, though. And they just go off to have another adventure. And I don't know. What do you think they would have done in the next one? Creature from the Black Lagoon or something?
Apparently, Creature from the Black Lagoon was supposed to be in this movie. It was supposed to be guarding the werewolf cure.
Right. Well, and there was there like a bit where you almost saw it or something?
I don't know.
Oh, I could have sworn there's like a bit where, because the werewolf cure is in like its own little castle and stuff, and there's there's like water around it, and there's not water around it. There's water at some point, and I could have sworn there's a bit where something swims around, and you're like, oh, is that supposed to be? But it never comes up again, so. I guess I was imagining it, and it's not in that castle, so I don't know where I saw that.
I don't know. But
so
I do know.
There was like a hint of it in the thing.
They did use most of their monsters. I mean, I guess technically because it was Mr. Hyde, they didn't use Hunchback of Notre Dame yet.
That's true. And Phantom of the Opera.
Mm-hmm. That's another
one of those guys. Yeah, but besides that, and Mummy, which technically, hasn't been connected yet, but I'm sure would have been if this was a hit. And Hugh Jackman, Brendan Fraser together, like this is peak 2000s. Like it would have been a huge hit. But yeah, I could have sworn, like I'm looking at it now. I'm looking at the scene where they're in the lab because I want to see if, much like in the Mummy movie from 2017, there's the scene where you see the hand of some guy and you're like, oh, that's supposed to be the Creature of the Black Lagoon, but I don't think that exists in this scene. Are they ever in like a lagoon?
I don't think. I mean, there's the water in the place where Frankenstein's hanging out when they first find him.
Oh, yeah. Maybe that's what I thought it was. But, yeah, it's Frankenstein instead of that. It is like he's in like a little lagoon, though, actually. That's probably what I thought that was going to be when it turned out to be a lagoon. But, instead it's Frankenstein. It's pretty cool. I don't know. This movie's great. Any other big picture stuff that we haven't talked about? What did you think, like effects wise, what worked and what didn't work?
I think whenever the human actors like yelled and had big vampire fangs, that looked really bad.
Oh yeah, that was weird. Because they had like, it's not just they had like fangs, their whole mouth turned into a big mouth of teeth and pointy teeth, and it looked pretty silly.
At one point, one of them does a full-on like predator face, which was weird.
I
don't think the effect works super well, but I like the idea of the werewolves tearing off their own skin.
Yeah, that's cool. It reminds me of a thing that happened very recently in The Boys. There's a character who does that, and it's much better looking in The Boys, but it is has the same effect of coolness. And I like when you turn back into a human, you also tear off your werewolf skin.
Yeah, there's just infinite layers of hue and wolf underneath.
Yeah, which, you know what? Which wait, when the brother is sneaking around in the castle, he has not turned into a werewolf yet, I guess then. He's in Hugh Jackman, like, proto-werewolf superpowers mode and climbing around on the walls and stuff.
Wait, when?
When the brother shows up and he's like, sister, it's me. And she's like, what's wrong with you?
No, because he's
like,
a werewolf.
Secretly werewolf.
He's a werewolf first, and then the clouds go over the moon, and then he's brother, and is like, sister, I need to tell you stuff.
So I believe you're right. I'm not. But then does that mean he, as werewolf, goes into the library or whatever and just tears all his skin off and puts that somewhere? Because he's a person and then tears all his skin off there and then turns back into a werewolf and leaves? Like,
yeah. Well, following regular movie conventions, anything that happens off screen is completely silent.
Yeah. And the only reason I even registered it as having to be a werewolf is because we see a little bit of werewolf vision through his eyes when he's like kind of stalking her.
Well, we full on see him as a werewolf shortly after that.
And then, yeah, that is that happens right after. Now I'm like, where is this creature from the Black Lagoon in here? I'm watching all the shots. I can't find it. It's fine. What other things look good and didn't look good? Sometimes the character would swing on a rope and that looked really bad, but sometimes it looked okay.
It depends on if they were just swinging in like a normal setting a human could do, or if they were swinging over a big cavern, a big, pit or something, and they had to CGI it.
There's a lot of pit swinging in this movie, so they got their money's worth.
I think Frankenstein looks pretty good.
Yeah, Frankenstein looks great, except for the one shot where he has to paste his face back together.
Yeah,
I think that
except the one part
weird.
where it's mostly CGI instead of a lot of practical.
Yeah, and but yeah, I think Frankenstein looks okay. I think the werewolf CGI looks pretty good in general, like just the design of the big giant werewolves. Whereas I think the Dracula's, like what the Dracula and brides look like as monsters, looks kind of whatever.
I like that werewolf Hugh Jackman still has Hugh Jackman's hair.
Yeah, that was awesome. And he's got great hair, and it's like it's funny how I don't. And you know what? Now I'm looking at it. Dracula also has hair. Does Dracula usually have hair as like a bat guy? I guess he's not usually. This
isn't usually a thing that happens.
Yeah,
usually he can turn into a normal bat.
Right, that makes sense.
In this movie, if you haven't seen it, dear listener, the Dracula and his brides can turn into big, like, bat demon monsters.
Yeah, now that I'm looking at it, what it kind of looks like is like what you would get if you try to make a live action Gargoyles movie in like 2005. And yeah, that's just it. And apparently, well, we'll learn in the movie they're weak to werewolves, which is. Has that ever been a part of lore? Because that comes up in the whatchamacallits then after that, the Twilights, and I think that's part of the underworlds as well.
Yeah, I think this is a creation of the like 90s and on, when we decided vampires and werewolves are natural enemies.
Right.
For
yeah.
pretty much no reason.
I mean, because they were public domain guys and they were probably hanging around the same time, technically. So it was
there were things that cool goths who played RPGs like Vampire the Masquerade wanted to be.
Which one would you rather be in this universe? Okay, how about this? In the Masquerade thing that you're talking about that has like actual rules that are consistent throughout the thing, which one's better? Is there one that's just objectively a cooler thing to be?
I mean, if you ask me, there's almost no universe in which it is not cooler to be a vampire.
Okay. I guess that makes sense. They have a lot of superpowers. Although they live forever, which I think is a curse.
Which I think is an amazing benefit, and everyone should want it.
But then, could you just walk into the sunlight and burst into flames? Like
I don't go out in the sun anyway.
If you wanted to. Do they have to... I would assume vampires have to like kind of have more of a deal with the devil than werewolves though. So like if you're religious and you're a vampire, do you go to hell immediately? Whereas a werewolf, if you're a good person as werewolf and well as man, but then maybe as werewolf too, you can still go to heaven. Because
I don't know. I don't know what the traditional stance on the status of your soul when you become a werewolf is.
yeah, because this movie treats it like, like a disease that you get. You get the werewolf disease that's in your blood and then just turn into a werewolf.
Oh, you mean like how in Harry Potter, werewolf is kind of like a metaphor for AIDS, except actually if you follow that through logically, it's actually saying some really horrible stuff.
Yeah. And that's the other thing. Did that come out this year? Like the same year as this? Or was this maybe a year before that? They were around the same time.
Oh, I don't remember what years all those Harry Potter books came out.
Yeah, that one was what? Prisoner of Azkaban?
That was the first one with a werewolf, yeah.
Prisoner of Azkaban, 2004, same year as this.
Sorry for the yawning, guys, but we started talking about Harry Potter, so.
Yeah, we started talking about Harry Potter and thinking specifically about, like, all the bad writing parts of it that, forced their way into the movies. But that's so weird that there were two werewolf movies out at the... And I do think that was part of why I liked this, was, like, Harry Potter was, like, the sad little werewolf that kind of stunk versus this one that was a big jacked, professional wrestler.
Big jacked werewolf man, if you will.
Yeah, that's right. A huge jacked man. And it had like big fangs. Like, yeah, the werewolf in the Harry Potter movie is seen, because of the bad AIDS metaphor, as like, oh, I don't want to be a werewolf. But in the Van Helsing movie, he rightly treats it as like, I should get werewolf disease just for long enough that I can kill a vampire and then unwerewolf myself, obviously, because that would be beneficial to me. And it mostly works. So
yeah,
Harry Potter should have tried that.
Almost flawless.
Can you imagine if Voldemort showed up to the school and he was like, all right, we're going to have to kill all these kids. And then they just all turned into werewolves. And then we're like, yeah, we figured this would be good for us. So we all infected each other with werewolf disease. And now a bunch of werewolves are going to kill Voldemort. Probably wouldn't have been prepared for that. Although, how intelligent are the werewolves in the Harry Potter verse? I couldn't remember.
I think it's pretty like uncontrollable when you're a werewolf, unless you're evil, and then you can control it a little. So like, if you want to not be evil, you gotta just like lock yourself in a room.
I see. That makes sense. And then in this, like, after your first transformation, you're like plain old just a monster. But during that first transformation, you have like some people left.
After midnight on your first full moon as a werewolf, it becomes irreversible.
Yeah, that's interesting. This movie's pretty cool. You know what has 4 wheels is a big cart.
Mm-hmm.
And then another big cart has 8 wheels.
Yeah.
And adds another 4 wheels to make 8. And we have 8 wheels worth of stuff here. We're not going to look at all 8 wheels.
But we have 80 things?
I have 80 things, yeah. I definitely have at least a bunch. So we're gonna go through this wheel. And yeah, we're going to spin it and just see what happens, And I spun the wheel. Tick, 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 tick. Landed on one of Diggins's, The Real Dark Universe.
I mean, we mostly talked about this already, but all the Universal Monster Universe are here. You got Dracula, you got Frankenstein, you got other guys.
Yeah, Werewolf,
Dr. Hyde.
Yeah.
Or Mr. Hyde, excuse me. It's Dr. Jekyll.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you know who wasn't in this that they could have done in a sequel? Invisible Man.
Oh, yeah. Maybe he was.
How would we know?
It's behind everybody all along. Yeah. But yeah, they definitely would have done him in the sequel. It would have been kind of underwhelming compared to werewolves fighting the Draculas. Just like a guy is invisible and he's maybe doing some crimes or whatever.
I don't know. I mean, I watched a little movie called Hollow Man that showed me that an invisible man could be very scary.
It could be very scary if you keep forgetting how to find the invisible man, even though you have all the technology to easily, quickly find him. But, yeah, I mean, because we kind of talked about this, but yeah, you got Phantom of the Opera, Invisible Man, The Mummy, kind of, if they were going to use him, and then Creature from the Black Lagoon. Who's the other one you said?
Yeah, and Hunchback of Notre Dame.
Hunchback of Notre Dame, although they kind of do that here, so it's like a little bit
they confusing. Like reference it.
Yeah.
Which leads me to a question. Has Mr. Hyde read Victor Hugo's novel?
I don't know. Did that exist before 1880, whatever?
Oh, yeah. That was written in like the early 1800s.
I'd have to assume yes. Right?
I guess so.
Yeah.
Dr. Jekyll
Sure.
was a pretty cultured man, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah, he seemed like he had like, you know, I mean, he had a fancy British accent when he was Dr. or Mr. Hyde. Like he had like the, street tough kind of thing. So yeah, absolutely. He would have been smart enough to know all this stuff. And that's pretty cool. You know what they could have done that they wouldn't have done yet if they wanted to make more of these is Bride of Frankenstein. He probably would have been the bad guy or something,
Even though Frankenstein is a good guy?
Yeah, he would have called Frankenstein would have been like, oh, Van Helsing, I need you to come here and get my bride. I made her, but now she's bad. And then
would have been like, women, am I right, Van Helsing?
Yeah. You know what? Because they could have done all that. I'm looking at the list of the Universal monsters. The Invisible Woman existed. Dracula's daughter existed. They could have gotten all of them. It's the Lady Avenger scene, but of monsters, and they're all evil. That would be pretty cool.
It could have been like that Scooby-Doo TV movie where he goes to teach at the ghoul school where all the Universal Monsters kids go.
Yeah. Or it could have been like Hotel Transylvania or whatever those like 18 movies are called that nobody likes. But they make a million of them and they don't advertise them and they just go right to Amazon or whatever. Because that's what it is now. I'm looking at this too. The other Universal monsters they could fight in the next one? Abbott and Costello. They could have just had them be monster. You know what? That would actually be pretty fun. If like there's an Abbott and Costello are like a group of like competing adventurers who are capturing all of the other ones that we haven't named yet and trying to create like a super monster guy, so they can run around from it. And like that's a whole problem Van Helsing needs to solve. That would be pretty sick.
I'd watch it.
Do that.
I'd watch Abbott and Costello meet Van Helsing.
Mm-hmm. That would be so good. But then this is what happens in this movie feels a lot like what is described in that ride that is going to be at the Universal Dark Universe. Whatever they're calling it.
That ride was like Frankenstein's doing some shit, but it's being funded by Dracula.
I think it's the opposite. I think it's that. Well, probably similar. It's like Frankenstein's daughter or something has trapped all the monsters, but Dracula is mad about that, so he's gonna come and free them and create chaos or something like that.
Oh,
like,
right.
It seems like Dracula's maybe the good guy in the ride.
I don't think he's the good guy. I think what it is so Frankenstein's daughter has captured the monsters and is like, well, I'm gonna figure out what good things to do with them. But Dracula is the smart one, so he's scheming and he's probably gonna find a way to break out and make this go bad.
That makes sense. And it's awesome. Like, do you think this is the problem with the Dark Universe? Is they started with their Avengers movie. It was awesome, but they couldn't make another one because they used all the monsters except for the ones that aren't that cool. And then they just kept trying to restart this with like, what if the Invisible Man was actually, a sex predator? Or what if the Mummy was actually, Tom Cruise was in it the whole time? And they just were never as cool as this. Like,
they just couldn't equal their masterpiece, Van Helsing. That was the problem.
Yeah. And like, to be fair, all of these movies have been done a bazillion times because they're all these characters are like, public domain characters like Dracula and vampires have been, we've gotten good Dracula movies in our lifetime, presumably. What's a good one?
Bram Stoker's Dracula by Francis Ford Coppola.
Yeah, right. There's that one. There's Renfield, which we just watched, and I think it was fine. That Demeter movie, which I haven't seen, but I've also heard is fine.
Yeah.
There's that Abigail movie where the kid is a vampire. I've also heard is fine. Blade 3 involves Dracula. He is the antagonist of that, and it's bad. It's the worst one, where Wesley Snipes wouldn't talk to the director and drew his like eyes on his outside of his eyes so he didn't have to open them. Classic move. I feel like Dracula never shows up in like the Twilights, I don't think. There was Dracula Untold, the one with
The Game is Afoot.
What is his name? Yeah, I've never seen that, but that does exist. Yeah, man, there's there are fewer of these than I actually thought. And then there's the Nosferatu movie that's coming out later this year, which might be good instead of bad. But yeah, not a ton of these. And Hotel Transylvania, I guess. Oh, and Sharkula, some sort of Sharknado-y thing. So that's probably great. Yeah, it's not good. Oh, I guess League of Extraordinary Gentlemen suggests the existence of Dracula by involving one of his brides, but not, or one of the women associated with Dracula, but we never see him.
Right.
I don't know if...
Is that Lucy or Mina in that one?
Mina Harkin.
That makes more sense.
And she's like, I think she's... We learn that she's also been alive for a really long time. So like if there was Dracula stuff, it may have happened in the distant past of that movie, because maybe he was like a historical figure in a different way. But who's the best actor that's ever played Dracula in our lifetime?
I mean, has anyone ever actually been better than Bram Stoker? Not Bram Stoker. Bela Lugosi. Fuck.
No, Bram Stoker,
My
right off
brain
screen,
is
just
bad.
crushing it.
I'm stupid. I've been very clear about this.
Well, is Nicolas Cage not better than him?
Nicolas Cage is a lot of fun as that role. I mean, I think the problem is the movie's just not that good.
Yeah, that's a good point. Did Dracula doesn't show up in that one Constantine movie, right?
No,
Probably not.
We watched it, remember?
Yeah. It's been so long. Ooh, Frank Langella was Dracula in a 1970s movie. That might have been good.
What's the movie called?
And then I think it's called Dracula. Yeah, it's just called Dracula. Looks fine. It's number 5 on the list of best Dracula movie actors ranked. Number 4, Max Schreck from 1922. The character played by Christopher Walken from Batman Returns.
That's right.
Also famously Dracula. Number 3 in this is Gary Oldman. Oh, you know what? There was the Christopher Lee Dracula. That's probably pretty good.
Oh, yeah. That's a pretty legendary one.
Yeah, but then it says Bela Lugosi is number 1. And Adam Sandler is number 9 on this list. So it's pretty good. Ooh, and then the guy from Monster Squad. Have you ever seen Monster Squad?
No, what's that?
Oh, it's so cool. Kind of. I don't know. I watched it as a kid, and it was, I didn't watch it when it came out because I wasn't alive when it came out, but it's like kids fighting monsters. It's like a kind of like the Goonies-y kind of thing. And yeah, they've got like, you know, there's a wolf man in it and a Dracula. It feels very Scooby-Doo, kind of like what if all these guys were friends, but also instead of this, where they like kind of recontextualize them all as historical figures, it's just the Halloween costumes guys, like kind of whatever you would expect. But yeah, it's a fun concept. I'm honestly surprised they've never made another one of those. Okay. But yeah. So it's this guy probably, right? He's the best one. Richard Roxburgh's his name. I think he's great. I do think he's the best part of this movie.
Oh, absolutely.
For sure.
Yeah, I love him.
Yeah. And he's got a lot of scenes. Like the movie starts with him. And I remember. Do you remember seeing the trailer for this movie at all?
This one?
Yeah, Van Helsing.
It's been so long, I don't remember.
So I remember this one seared into my brain, and I don't remember what all of the beats are, but I do remember the big beat near the middle is that line where at the masquerade ball, he says, the famous Van Helsing, and like, you know, kind of flies forward a little bit. And I remember seeing that and going, this guy's crazy. But yeah, that will always stick with me. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like this is the best Dark Universe we're probably ever going to get as a movie. But yeah, it's back in the 2005s before they would like stretch everything out into a huge franchise. They just cram it all into one movie. And
yeah, you know, you never know if you're going to get your second bite, so you gotta stuff it all in there, and then everybody dies at the end, so they can't be used again.
Mm-hmm. It's a shame, but luckily, like I just looked up, they all have sons and wives and stuff. So if they want to get really creative, they could. And it's weird because Dracula's not like a real guy, but like there is a historical Dracula figure that is not really related to this one at all, it seems.
They even changed his name. He says he's Vladislas, which is not the guy's name.
Couldn't get the rights or something, which is weird because it's like, yeah, it's this movie is so concerned with like, oh yeah, history actually it was real, like and so why not just use that? You know, we made a deal with the devil or something, and now he's this. But yeah, they don't bother. It's pretty weird. I spun the wheel again. Speaking of things that are weird, another one of yours, the butt crack of Hydramoto.
Hydrodom.
Hydrodom. Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. I thought that here's what I thought had happened. I thought I had typed out Hydra something, and I was like, oh, Hydramoto. That would make sense. And it auto corrected to Hydrojame, which in my head when I saw it was like, is that like a medicine or something? Like I take take 4 doses of Hydrodyne before bed, and then
I think it is, yeah,
or something.
Maybe that's the medicine that Russell Crowe takes so that he doesn't become Mr. Hyde. That's the big like 4-barrel injector he uses full of Hydrodyne.
And speaking of like actors that are playing iconic roles, this is a great shot at Dr. Hyde, but it is nowhere near the energy that Russell Crowe.
Obviously, Russell Crowe is the best to ever do it.
Yeah, and but this is maybe the first. Well, was Leave Extraordinary Gentleman before this? I can't remember. Yeah, Leave Extraordinary Gentleman was 1 year before this. No. So you had this, Leave Extraordinary Gentleman, and then the Dr. Hyde one where they were like, yeah, it's the Hulk. That's probably what it is.
Yeah, I don't know when we decided that as a culture, because that's not what that book is at all.
It might be, though. Maybe it was. Maybe that was what they meant when they wrote it, and then everybody misconstrued it as like a thing about morality, but they were just trying to write like the proto-Hulk comic, and it didn't work.
think I've talked about this before, but like I think that is the most seriously misinterpreted of any of these, because like the ultimate twist of that is like the ultimate twist is that they were the same person, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, but like he's not in control of himself. The whole idea is he uses a potion to become a second identity, which allows him to vent all of his like evil impulses without any societal, consequences, because they all think this other guy did it. So it's not that he has some evil alter ego. It's just about this idea of like, if you face no social consequences, a person like free to commit all the impulses and vile acts they wish becomes a pretty bad person.
Yeah. I mean, that's not, I wouldn't say that's actually even the message of the Hulk when you really get down to it. I feel like that's the message of like almost Batman, or like that's kind of, what superhero should this be? Now that I'm thinking about it, or supervillain, is it like Venom or something? Is what Dr. Hyde should be, or Dr. Jekyll?
Venom feels, because he's like, Eddie Brock's not into it. He is like, hell yeah, I want to do Venom stuff.
And the symbiote kind of brings out your worst impulses the same way like does with Spider-Man a lot, but like with Venom, it's more of just like this little evil thing that's like, kill those guys, and you have to be like, no. So it's almost like a metaphor for like, secretly what he wants to do but can't get away with because he's just a nice weird Brooklyn reporter. And but always treats it like the Hulk. Including the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen one, just being a big giant muscle guy. This one, it's kind of more of like he's like a troll or something.
Really? I've never seen that movie.
Well, like I'm talking about in this. Like I feel like in this he has like more realistic proportions. Or not more realistic proportions, I guess. How can I describe it? Looking at this one, he looks more like its own thing, like a mystical creature where it's just a big guy that you would see in like, Shrek or something, versus League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, where it is like a guy in a muscle suit with like big roided out muscles and like veins and stuff. And he is like, if you filled a man with steroids, like a normal human man, then it's awesome. It's this big plastic suit. It looks a lot like the Umbrella Academy brother in the first season, when he would like take the shirt off and just have a big giant gorilla body. Yeah. But yeah, what did you think of this version? The one played by Gimli? Pretty good.
He is. Was it? Do you mean Hagrid?
Oh, Hagrid. Sorry. Yeah.
I was like, wait a second. I don't think John Rhys Davies was in this movie.
No, yeah, I get them confused a lot because they're both guys from Shakespeare stuff, and I don't even. They're fantasy guys as well.
I mean, it's certainly a creative interpretation. Look, am I crazy, or do they sort of imply that he's Jack the Ripper also?
Yeah, no, they do. I can't remember the line, but there's something like that where it's like you did this, and you're kind of framed for this, not framed for this crime, but like this crime is another one that's under your list. And yeah, I think you're right. I think it is Jack the Ripper, which is weird because like, why is Van Helsing? Wait, now that I think about it, so the first shot of Van Helsing is Van Helsing looking at a wanted poster of Van Helsing.
Yeah, of himself.
And taking it off the wall and going, oh, you know, that's me. Why is he in wanted posters?
Well, because
does the church not have the power to cover that up?
He actually brings that up, if you remember, when he's talking to the cardinal. He's like, the cardinal's like, why do you think you are so wanted? And
right.
He goes, I thought you would take care of that. And he says, we can't take care of it because we don't exist.
Right, but like you can though, right? Like that's why you don't exist. How do you not exist? If someone found you, would you just go, you found us? Uh-oh, we don't exist, so we can't cover ourselves up.
But no, I assume he's wanted because a lot of monsters, when you kill them, turn back into people. So he's suspected of a bunch of murders, but really he just killed monsters.
Yeah. But do people know the monsters? Do people know that Mr. Hyde and Dr. Jekyll and all that is a thing? Or did they just see the Batman of their universe throw a guy out a window who dies, and then he's a guy, and they're like, oh no, he killed Mr. Hyde, everyone's favorite.
I mean, I guess
Dr. Jekyll, everyone's favorite guy.
I guess that second one, although he does transform mid-flight, so anyone who saw this happen would see this man shrink by like half as he sails through the air.
Yeah, and you'd see him like fly through the Notre Dame, giant window. I feel like you'd have to go like, this isn't just a guy killing him, this is something else. Especially in a world where like there's Dracula and all these other characters are popping up. I don't know. Although maybe that's what our world is like, we think the earth is round and stuff, but in the future, when they make movies about it, people will go, how could those idiots think the world is round when it's really flat,
Yeah, when we finally discover once and for all that the earth is flat, as we all know it to be.
Van Helsing probably thinks the world is round though, right? He doesn't think it's flat.
At that period of time, they still had the erroneous belief that the world was round.
Mm-hmm. It's funny that he didn't know that, but maybe that would have been the second one. He would have sailed off the edge of the world looking for the creature from the Black Lagoon or something. Oh, you know what they could have done? They could have synced this up with Jules Verne bullshit. He could have gone and killed all the guys from Gilligan's Island, or not Gilligan's Island, Gulliver's Travels.
When you talk about sailing off, Gulliver's Travels is not Jules Verne.
Oh, it's not?
Gulliver's Travels? No, Gulliver's Travels is Jonathan Swift.
Oh.
Yeah, no, I mean, I was thinking that when you said sailing off the edge of the world, I was like, oh man, The Rock could have done that in Journey 3.
Mm-hmm. Although that one was going to the moon, but then they would go to the moon and they'd look down and go, wait a second, it's flat? And then they go back down and sail to the end because they'd find something special at the end of the world.
It all makes sense.
Don't the Pirates of the Caribbean go to the end of the flat earth in that movie?
And one of them's called That World's End. I think, they do.
Yeah. Huh. It'd be funny if there was one actor from those movies that the movie did convince the flat earth is real. Like if you ask Keira Knightley, she'd be like, well, yeah, obviously. I know we did the real one. And then she has no idea. But luckily everybody in this movie, as far as I know, thinks the earth is round. I haven't really asked him in a while. We should ask everybody. Kate Beckinsale, she seems like a normal human, right? Like a normal celebrity.
As far as I know, I don't think she does any goop or anything.
Yeah, so that's good. It's a good sign. And then the other people in it, I want to say Schuler Hensley is mostly a Broadway guy. The guy that plays Frankenstein, including, I want to say, was the Frankenstein in the Young Frankensteins when it was on Broadway before this movie came out. So that's fun.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, good for him.
Good for him. Young Frankenstein is not an especially good Broadway show, but I don't have an end to that sentence.
I was talking about Young Frankenstein, not Frankenstein.
Young Frankenstein.
Although there was the Frankenstein musical, you're right.
I said Young Frankenstein. Did you mean you were talking about Frankenstein?
No, I was talking about Frankenstein, or I was talking about Young Frankenstein, but as I looked through his IMDb, I realized he also played Frankenstein in Frankenstein the Musical.
Oh, no, I was saying...
Maybe I read that wrong?
I was saying Young Frankenstein is not an especially good Broadway show.
Yeah, that's fair. But yeah, why did we have to see this guy's butt crack?
Because it's sexy, obviously. They were like, damn,
yeah,
people are going to want a slice of that hide cake. Am I right?
Mm-hmm. We do also see a little bit of Hugh Jackman's butt in this movie. So
apparently we're supposed to see more of it. Apparently he was supposed to be naked after he was a werewolf.
That would make sense. Because there wouldn't be clothes under there.
Yeah.
Because he ripped his skin off.
I don't think that.
Unless he carefully ripped it off with the pants.
But then again, Velkin also was wearing pants afterwards, and it's like, where'd you get those?
He was. Well, I guess part of me thought maybe he lived there, right? So maybe he had pants stashed in some room, and he was like, I'll just go to the laundry room real quick before I turn back into a guy. But yeah, you get to keep your pants. Also, does Dracula doesn't wear clothes, or does he materialize his clothes from magic? Because he also turns into a big vampire, but when he's a vampire monster, he doesn't have whatever outfit he was wearing before. But when he turns back, he does.
I think he follows D&D rules, because when he transforms, he doesn't rip his clothes. He just becomes his bat monster.
No.
So I think his clothes just merge into his body when he transforms, and so they come back out when he de-transforms.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, Hyde really got screwed with this transforming thing. He probably had a really hard time getting home from being Dr. or Mr. Hyde back to Dr. Jekyll. But I guess he still had pants on.
Yeah. I mean, think about it. So at the beginning, he's like, Dr. Jekyll, Hyde, the church wants me to take you back to see if we can fix the transformation. But I just want to kill you, you son of a bitch. And it's like, is this meant to be the original where Dr. Jekyll is fully aware of what he's doing? Or is this supposed to be like the old one where he's just an evil personality? In which case, pretty cold, Van Helsing, to just be like, I want to kill you.
Yeah, especially since Van Helsing will later do the opposite of that and be like, no, I can tell this guy's still a guy and we can't kill Frankenstein. Whereas I think there's a much stronger case for Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde being a thing we can eventually cure. We can cure it by just not letting him transform with the magic potion or whatever, right? It's not even...
Well, the way...
Again,
if we're going by the original story... it eventually starts happening involuntarily, and he starts needing the serum to stop being Hyde.
Oh, right, because that's also what happens in the Dark Universe one with Russell Crowe. He has to take the serum to unhide. That makes sense. I guess the other thing they probably would have done in a sequel, which would have been stupid, but they'd probably make the church the bad guys. There'd be some sort of nefarious thing they're cooking up. But I don't know what it would have been. What else was fun about this?
What sort of nefarious things could the Catholic Church be up to, Nando? I can't think of anything.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe Robert Langdon would have to solve that crime too, a historical or they'd probably make that and end up being Van Helsing. But the idea that the church is also hunting monsters, I would assume they're imprisoning monsters that are not huntable, or do they kill them? If you got Dr. Jekyll in there, they would experiment on him for a while, try to fix him. And while they're doing that, he would be in their little jail or something. Yeah,
the little underground catacombs where Friar Q lives.
Yeah. So they probably got other monsters that we don't even know about that they're still working on? Or after a couple days, would they be like, we're out of space, and then just, cut
Maybe
his
it
throat?
would be a Scooby-Doo 2 Monsters Unleashed. All the monsters in the Vatican basement go running wild in Rome,
Yeah.
and then Helsing's gotta like go through the streets of Rome cleaning up all the monsters.
That'd be pretty cool, actually. I think that'd be pretty.
I'd watch it.
Yeah, it'd be great. Oh, for sure. I would listen. We're in the era of like just taking another shot at franchises from the olden days, like Twister and stuff. That I think this wasn't as big of a hit as Twister was, but I would
It's actually
imagine
kind
this
of
probably made.
Kind of a disappointment at the box office, which is why they never
Oh,
made
it
more.
was. No, is it because it cost $1 billion? Or is it because it made $0?
Good question.
I could see this being quite an expensive movie, but
you want to take a crack at budget and box office?
I'll say the budget's like I think it's over 100 million. I think it's like 120 million. And box office, domestic. I mean, you said it was a disappointment, but I still think it probably made at least 100 million domestic. So I'm gonna say it cost 120, made 120, but still that was a disaster because of marketing, and it didn't do well overseas.
It cost 160 to 170 million.
Oh my god!
And
this would have been like one of the most expensive movies ever made at that time.
And I don't know about domestic versus international. I don't think there was as much of a distinction back then.
Yeah,
like the international market wasn't that huge. But total, it made 300 million. This is why I said it was a disappointment. Okay. It wasn't a bomb.
Yeah. And if they had managed to make this for $100 million, it'd be a pretty solid little hit. But this was the beginning of the Marvel Cinematic Universe's formula of if every movie costs $1 billion to make, they have to be the most successful movie of all time.
Yup.
But that sucks because, yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if they made another one of these if that had made money, but I don't think it has. Do you think people think fondly about this movie if you think back to it? You're like, that was pretty fun. Or do people think that was stupid, like kind of like Elektra or something like that?
I feel like it's a mix. I feel like people like you and me who can now appreciate something goofy but earnest are like, oh man, that Van Helsing movie, pretty fun. But I feel like a lot of people who aren't as tuned into movies will just think back and be like, I didn't like it. It was bad.
Yeah, that's fair. I wonder if this could get redone when we get a little bit older, and when the people in charge of the studios that are 40 or 50 were people like us that saw this movie when we were, or like people like me specifically who saw this movie when we were 15 and it was the coolest thing ever. So we thought it was good.
I mean, eventually, as the nostalgia well gets drier and drier, I feel like we're going to revisit almost everything.
And some of these movies, like the Top Gun one, and I don't know about Twisters because it just came out, but like the Top Gun made $1 bazillion. So sometimes these are pretty profitable.
Yeah, it happens.
So I think there's definitely a way this could work. They probably cast some actor who isn't really as fun as Hugh Jackman, like, a Taylor Hitch type or Kitsch type or something, and that would probably be its downfall. Oh my God. He has to be in it. It's the rules, but it would be a shame. Although, you know who you probably get? Because Glenn Powell seems like he's the Tom Cruise analog. You get, or not Tom Cruise, I guess, because he wasn't. He's like the Val Kilmer analog in the Top Gun movie. But you probably get Taron Egerton, who seems to be the young Hugh Jackman, like doing all the stuff Hugh Jackman did 20 years ago, but now.
Although I am concerned. Have you seen any of the trailers for the new Crow movie?
Oh my God, no! But I've seen the poster, and I can already tell that's going to be a mess.
It looks like I mean, listen, trailers can mislead. I've never seen the original. So maybe it's a great movie. The trailer makes it look like a big stinker.
Oh man, yeah. I've kind of been not even staying away from that. Just I keep forgetting it's a real thing. But that even just seeing that poster, I was like, this doesn't look like a good Ugh.
It looks like it was written by one of those people who like unironically put up a profile picture of them and their significant other as Harley Quinn and the Joker. Like,
Yeah, I could see that.
You're damaged in a way that fits with my damage. We're both, crazy.
Yeah. Oh man. You know what this looks like? I'm gonna put the new poster in the text. This is the only thing I've seen from it. It's got it's like they tried to make another Morbius or something. Like it's got that.
Yeah, it does kind of have that
even
energy.
like the fonts and stuff look so weird. But also it's just like The Crow, a man, a woman, a bunch of ladders and stuff behind them. You'll never believe how many beams and shit there are in this factory that makes crows. What the fuck is this trailer? Are they standing on train tracks in the middle of this?
I think
it's a really bad shot. Watch out, guys. There's a train coming. Is that how he dies in the movie? I'm pretty sure. I know Brandon Lee in the real one got shot or something. I would imagine that's how also The Crow ends, but maybe in this one he gets hit by a train or something. Oh man, this is not good.
Anyway, my point is, I'm worried that a new Van Helsing would be an edgy goth mess like this.
Yeah. Or, you know what it would be, speaking of Taron Egerton, be like that Robin Hood movie where they try to make it really grounded and make it like Batman, and it's just kind of whatever. It's
also, those are the two directions you could go in opposite ways that would make the movie bad. Or, well, worse, perhaps.
Yeah, I think you could do a version of this, like the Taron Egerton version of this would have, Dracula would maybe be an actual Dracula character, but like Frankenstein would be a man who got a weird surgery and has a fucked up face and is really tall, but is still mostly a guy and has been shunned by society or something like that. And, it would, that wouldn't be fun. Not that that's what Robin Hood is, and then they took him and made him a human man, but they'd, that feels like the watered down version of that.
You know who's not fucked up enough in this movie, though?
Who?
Igor.
Yeah, I don't know what's Igor supposed to look like.
I mean, the classic Igor. I don't know how I've actually never read Frankenstein. I just generally know how it goes. So I don't know how he's describing it. But, he's got like the big hunchback and like the weird eye and everything, right? Like he's supposed to be a fucked up little guy.
That's a good point. And I Googled Igor, besides apparently a Tyler, the Creator album. It did make that movie called Igor. That was like a little Minions-y kind of thing. And I didn't see it, but it had John Cusack as Igor. So maybe it was cool.
Everyone's
but then
favorite.
I do think my idea of Igor is the young Frankenstein version of Igor. Like if you could convince me that's exactly what he looks like in the real movie, and I'd buy it. But yeah, I think they put this guy under some makeup and stuff and made him look a little strange. And they had him do his Benny from the Mummy accent, which I don't think is that actor's real accent. So yeah, I don't know. It's pretty weird.
He just looks more like a little zombie or something than Igor to me.
Yeah, I think that's fair. What was that Daniel Radcliffe movie? Do you remember they made like a Frankenstein movie with Daniel Radcliffe?
Vaguely?
And like, I think in that movie, James McAvoy was Frankenstein, and Daniel Radcliffe, pretty much just as Daniel Radcliffe, was the Igor of that relationship. And it was like, I think it was called Victor Frankenstein.
Oh, that sounds so familiar.
I think it was written by Max Landis or something.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, and I mean, it didn't go anywhere. It was kind of a bomb, but yeah.
You're right. Victor Frankenstein, written by Max Landis.
So yeah. We've had handsomer Igors, but we have also had freakier Igors. Although maybe at the end of this movie he gets freaky, and it's one of those origin movies where he has to earn his Igor costume at the end. I don't know. I haven't seen it. I'm sure it's unbearable.
Speaking of which, when are we going to watch his Justice League pitch or whatever?
Oh my God. I watched some of it. I really couldn't. I'm usually pretty good with cringe, and I maybe got about 20 minutes in and had to stop. But one of these days I'll finish it. But you know what else there is? Wheel stuff.
Whoa.
Spin the wheel. Tick, 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 tick. Landed on one of yours again. This is Friar Q. This guy, what's up with him?
Yeah, he's literally just Q in a James Bond movie. We go through his lab where he's like, here's all the weapons that will be used at various points throughout the movie. My auto-loading crossbow, my extendable stake, my crucifix thing.
My sun bomb. I can't imagine how we'll use that to kill a vampire.
Like, that's the one where I'm like, what the fuck are we even doing here? What do you mean you don't know how you would use a sun bomb when you're going to fight vampires? Now,
I'd be like, let's hang here and make 10 of these. I think I'm going to need a lot of them.
If he didn't know that vampires were weak to sunlight, that would be one thing. But they do know. When the sun's coming up, they're like, oh, sun's out. The vampires can't get us now. So it's like, and you can't think of how to use the sun bomb?
Like, there really are only 4 vampires that they have any trouble killing. Just 4 sun bombs. You could probably get all 3 of the brides with 1 if you wait and like time it right. And then just, boom, you're good. Also, it seems like
that whole masquerade full of vampires with 1 sun bomb.
It also seems like the sun bomb would kill him if he was too close to it, because they do make it this like kind of, it's almost like it has the energy of the sun or something.
It does appear to also be an actual bomb, yes.
Yeah, it feels like it would just be a good thing to have around if we're going to use those at all. But they use dynamite later to blow up the thing. But if the sun bomb was in there, it would have killed 2 brides.
Probably, yeah.
It would have been great. Yeah. Might even killed the werewolf. I don't know where the werewolf was during that scene, but it could have helped. But yeah, I would have wasted the sun bomb first thing. Like, I wouldn't have had it for the masquerade because I would have used it on the brides. It maybe would have killed 2 of them. And then he'd be like, wait, that's the, and I'd be like, well, yeah, what else were we going to do with it? Like, because it probably wouldn't have killed Dracula either, even though it should have like melted his skin.
Yeah, but then he would have just healed it. It definitely wouldn't have killed Dracula because they're quite definitive that only a werewolf bite can kill Dracula. Although I do love the way they figure it out is Hugh Jackman's just like, it's probably a werewolf bite. Let's just go off that theory. There's no evidence whatsoever.
There's just that one painting that's like one time a werewolf fought a Dracula, and they're like, it's a cool painting, I guess. That's like a,
There's that, and then he's like, why does Dracula have a werewolf cure? Must be weak to werewolves. The only explanation.
Yeah.
I'm like, I can think of more.
Yeah, I feel like you would have at least a cure for everything that you're turning guys into. But I would imagine if I saw that cure, I'd be like, oh, Dracula's turning himself into a werewolf too? That's sick as hell. We're in a lot of trouble. Obviously, it's the cure so he can cure himself. But no, it's just for other werewolf stuff. But it's also not a cure he has on hand. Like, in case a werewolf shows up, I want to have this near me. He's like, it's in another castle in a secret little thing next door.
Like,
somebody's have to go get
like liquid nitrogen or something.
Yeah. What the fuck are they? Why does he even have it?
Speaking of which, that's one Friar Q thing they never use. He has a little, like, explosive gel that they never use.
Mm-hmm. That would have been pretty handy.
Mm-hmm.
And they also, I was shocked that they never used the chain gun at any point. It's not secretly built into the big one of the carriages or something.
Yeah, like if at one point, like when Igor starts chasing Carl, is the friar's name.
Oh my God.
Where he didn't just like activate his handbag and it becomes the Gatling gun and he just mows down Igor. And then Van Helsing's like, I thought you said it wasn't ready. I'm like, well, emergency.
Yeah, not ready for you, obviously, but I've been training with it. Where do you think I've been this whole time? Having sex with some random woman? No, I've been in the back doing machine gun maintenance. It's pretty good. Also, where were we with guns at this time in history? We had some, right? Like it's something a random, character might have.
Oh yeah, guns were well past the point where guns were the main weapon.
When was the Gatling gun invented?
Oh, it existed by now, actually. It wasn't like he would have been inventing that. The Gatling gun is first used around the time of the Civil War, I believe. So like 1860s.
So why is this such a big deal for Van Helsing when he sees it?
Well, he doesn't. Well, he's not like, whoa, what's that? He's like, how come I don't get to use one of those? So, I mean,
okay.
I feel like if you were a field agent who sees a sick-ass Gatling gun, you'd be like, why can't I use that? Even now.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. And then the cardinal would be like, "That's in case the Protestants rise up against us. We only use that one on the people." But here, it's more of a. But then they give him a machine gun chain or a crossbow, which like is that better than just a regular gun? Seems like it's pretty unwieldy. It's got to be super heavy too, right? Like,
I guess the idea is the crossbow can launch stakes, so it's good for vampires.
Right.
But he does also just use pistols for the werewolves.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, she has pistols with silver bullets in the beginning of the movie, but all the rest of the guys just have regular bullets, which we'll get to. But like, when Hugh Jackman is fighting the brides of Frankenstein, he has to do something to the arrows because they wouldn't normally kill the brides. So I would assume if he did dip the gun in that would have also worked, right?
Well,
like,
I think if he hit him right in the heart, the crossbow gun would have worked. But he had bad aim, right. So he dipped it in the holy water so that it didn't matter where he hit her.
That makes sense. I see. Yeah, I guess it's tricky to find them. They're just floating around pretty far, and they kind of because a lot of this movie is just a bluish gray. They fade right into the background.
Yeah, I guess to be fair to Van Helsing here, it is hard to hit the heart of a moving target.
Yeah, especially a Dracula or a vampire, where like you'd assume you know where the heart is, but also like who knows? Maybe it's in the foot. You know, everything could have moved around. Where did all the rest of the internal organs go? Maybe they're in a different spot. I spun the wheel again. This one of mine, which I think is important. This one is just the thing that really bugged me. It says Valkyrie the fastest man alive. Remember the scene where Valkyrie dies? It's one of those scenes that like one of these characters just appears and it's like he was over there before. And then the werewolf ran at full speed and charged Kate Beckinsale, and somehow he got there first and then managed to cut the werewolf off and shoot it. It's just this guy.
Well, it's well established in this movie that when someone's not on screen, they can teleport.
They really can, yeah. Maybe they're invisible. Well, invisible manning wouldn't help, but like maybe there's some sort of weird superstition related to this family that's never really established. And that's why she's able to cloak the second carriage in shadows as well. It's like, yeah, they can teleport, but it's not explicitly brought up, but that's how they get away with all this bullshit.
Mm-hmm. Well, just everyone can do it, so everyone nobody feels the need to talk about it. It's just a thing people can do in these universes. It's like, oh yeah, you can teleport. Like, so can everyone. Who cares?
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I like that intro. I mean, you had something on the wheel for that, which is no one else brought silver bullets. Which, like, do you think it's just because they're expensive or hard to get? Or
I mean, presumably, I guess, but it feels insane to me that they it's not like they ran into a werewolf. They knew they were going werewolf hunting. It was the whole idea.
Yep.
And they all start firing at the werewolf with regular bullets. So it's like, and they know it's silver because at one point he yells down at them like, "No, use my gun. It has the silver bullets."
Mm-hmm.
And presumably he told them that before all this because it would be insane if he didn't.
Yeah.
So like, what are they doing?
I don't know. It would be, yeah, it's weird. There's a version of this that I think would be funny if his gun had silver bullets just because he likes those. And then they've learned like, oh, you can use that to kill the werewolves, but they didn't know that before. But yeah, he does point it out. And even she's like, she has to go get the gun because everybody else is still blindly shooting the werewolf with not silver bullets. Maybe this town is just pretty dumb. Like they're just like, yeah, that's silver, whatever. It's like metal, whatever. It'll get it.
Also, I'm not clear who these people are.
Yeah.
Are they townsfolk? Are they other Roma? Like, what's going on?
I think the townsfolk is these guys. Yeah, I think these guys are the townsfolk. Do they all get killed in this scene, or does it escape and then just go after her so they're all fine?
I think the second one.
Okay, yeah. So I guess we should be able to see these guys later in the town, like wide shots, but I don't remember any of them. The only guy that sticks out in the town is the grave digger guy, and he's not there for this, I think. Yeah, and I honestly, like, he seems to be the mayor of this town because grave digging is so important. He's like risen to power.
Although I do,
and
if you have a wheel slice about him, I'll save this. But I do love his last scene where he's like, I'm not worried about the werewolf. It don't hurt me because I'm just the lowly gravedigger. And then like 5 seconds later, he gets bodied by a werewolf. It's like, so you were just saying bullshit then, I guess. Grave.
Yeah, I mean, this guy, he's got an outfit with a top hat, so he's probably able to just say bullshit, and everybody's like, he's probably right about that, though, because he has the top hat. And that's why when Hugh Jackman shows up with a slightly taller, or at least height of equal tallness hat, he is able to use that to, gain some sort of, notoriety in the village.
Although this happens when he's about to attack Hugh Jackman, and I still don't know why.
Which part? Oh, when he's like looking around for the werewolf.
Yeah, he's looking around for the werewolf, and the gravedigger guy tries to hit Hugh Jackman with a shovel, but instead he gets ate up by a werewolf. And it's like, why were you going to do that, gravedigger man?
Yeah, and the gravedigger man even gets caught right before Hugh Jackman's about to get hit, and Hugh Jackman like stops him, and the gravedigger guy's like, all right, you got me, sorry, I was just gonna do it. And yeah, there's no explanation for what his plan was. He didn't seem to not trust Van Helsing. He just, like, I guess didn't like him. I don't know. Maybe he could tell that, like, Kate Beckinsale was into Hugh Jackman and he wasn't having that. I don't know.
Maybe completely separate from everything else going on in this town, he's a serial killer.
Yeah. Oh, maybe he's Jack the Ripper secretly or something.
I mean, could you think of a better serial killer cover than living in a Transylvanian town full of monsters? Like, one of your victims turns up and everyone's like, another vampire. I don't know what to tell you.
And you're the Undertaker, right? So all you have to do is like bury the ones that they don't find, and then everyone's like, yeah, I guess, they're not digging up all the graves and seeing if there's extra guys in the graves. So everybody's like, why is he digging a grave? Oh, right, he's the Undertaker. I guess that's his job. So I wonder if there's some old myth or like some story about an evil gravedigger that this guy is supposed to be, that it just totally went over my head. I don't know about that, but I could be convinced. That guy also has an insane accent. What did you think of the accent work in this movie for specifically the Transylvanians?
Incredible. Mm-hmm. Just not a remotely accurate one amongst the whole bunch.
It was so specific that part of me was like, is this what Transylvanians sound like? Because what that guy sounds like is just like what Nando sounds like and What We Do in the Shadows. Yeah, and they're both supposed to be vampires from Pennsylvania. I'm like,
is
that just what it is?
Nando's Turkish, though.
That's true. He's not a Transylvanian vampire. Yeah, then I don't know. Maybe that actor just watched this movie and was like, that's a vampire accent for you, and went with it. I think Kate Beckinsale's accent's probably the weirdest of the non-Hugh Jackman accents, but I do like it. She's having fun.
Listen, I love a bad Eastern European accent. It's honestly part of why I like old like vampire stories and things like that, is to hear some actors just really go for broke with the worst impression of a Romanian I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah. Yeah, and this is before like the movies where the production studio would like send you to hang out with Eastern European people for a year, like with Mickey Rourke in that Iron Man movie where he like spent 6 months with Russian people and just came back going like, they drink a lot. I should be drinking in my movie and like my scenes.
Yeah,
and they did that.
Fuck that. Give me that Tim Curry in Congo energy. That's what I want.
It's pretty cool. Yeah, and Hugh Jackman's accent is weird. And, people that watch it, it's not like the other movie where he's hiding an Australian accent. It's like he's mostly American. It seems like he's mostly doing Wolverine with like a slight tinge of British, but sometimes he yells or something and you're like, that's not what it sounds like now, but I don't know what this sounds like. Like, it doesn't sound like explicitly like an Australian accent. It's all over the place, but it's pretty cool. Yeah, I spun the wheel again. Another thing about Kate Beckinsale real quick. Just the Joss Whedon school of falling into genitals. Do that twice in one scene where she just lands face first onto, or like she lands right on Hugh Jackman's face.
Oh yeah, right in the prime DJ Khaled position.
That's right. Yeah, an anti-Khaled.
Yeah, a reverse
like the
Khaled, they call it.
Mm-hmm. And they both make a face like, maybe later though. Like there's none of the awkwardness with it.
I don't hate this.
Yeah, we're both hot. Like this works, but not right now, obviously. And I thought that was great. But yeah, that's one of maybe Kate Beckinsale's 15 backflips in this movie, where she gets dropped by one of the brides and then just does a instead of a vertical fall, catches something with her foot, does a flip, lands on a roof, and then lands the way she does. Like, there's another one earlier that blows my mind where the werewolf is being caught in the big cage, and it just catches her real quick as it's going up, and she does a backflip but lands, but completely unnecessary. Like, just showing us that she could do backflips and maybe just like kind of setting that up for every scene in the future. But yeah, wild how many backflips she does in this.
My favorite one is where she like is hanging off of a roof and then like kicks off the roof, does a flip through the air, and then like slams her face into a tree.
Yeah, that one's pretty funny. She's and like they set this character up as just like one of those kind of, you know, badass women. She's from like 2005. A
strong female protagonist, we call those.
Yeah. And she's trying her best, and I think she's good in this. I do like her in this, but I mean, yeah, she's just
objectively. You watch the movie, and this character does nothing.
Yeah, absolutely not. She manages to kill one of the brides of Frankenstein at one point, which would have died immediately after because Hugh Jackman kills Dracula.
It's impressive because the brides of Frankenstein aren't in the movie. So,
excuse me, brides of Dracula. Yeah. Maybe they would have been brides of Frankenstein if they survived. Maybe they would have seen the Heart of Gold and gone like, wow, I actually want to be a bride of Frankenstein. Yeah. Yeah, man. Kate Beckinsale, pretty good in this. Spun the wheel again. Another one. Everything on the wheels like from this scene. Because this is a standard holy water dispenser. That's pretty cool.
There are a lot of things in this scene that did make me laugh. Because Hugh Jackman is running around in like the town square trying to shoot at the brides, and it's not working, and he has his crossbow knocked away from him, and he's like, oh no, what do I do? And then the Friar Carl just like stands up and just shouts, Van Helsing, the church! And then we zoom in.
Yeah.
A faucet outside the church that just dispenses holy water.
Which, like, yeah, it treats it like it's a machine gun that, like, we forgot was in the corner of the scene. And even, you know what? He sees it and the vampire sees it and she's like, oh no, the holy water thing. And he makes a run for it and she catches him, like, off guard in that moment, but then he'll get it later.
It's like everyone knows, like, oh fuck, churches, they have the holy water faucets. Oh, why didn't I think of that?
And also, like, this, we learn that this town has been attacked by vampires all the time. Like, they don't seem to want to fight the vampires, but if they did, you would expect they'd have these every 5 feet or something. There'd just be, you know, sprinkler systems throwing holy water out at all times. But yeah, this was wild that this was the thing.
That really is a character missing from this setting, which is the town priest. Because, like, presumably if they're dispensing holy water from some sort of automated system, there's, like, casks of water that get attached to this, like a water cooler that the priest is blessing. Like, I don't think water is just naturally holy.
Yeah, if it wasn't for the Friar Tuck or Friar whatever, what would we say his name was?
Friar
Carl,
or something? I think.
Friar Carl, yeah. If it wasn't for Friar Carl already existing, he'd definitely be a guy living here that Van Helsing meets and just like, I'm the field agent, and then this guy's like, oh, I've been at this town and I never want to deal with vampires, but thank God you're here, and then gets whisked away on this adventure. And like the fact that Hugh Jackman or like Van Helsing in that first scene where he recruits Carl is just like, you're coming with me, and he's like, I don't wanna. It's like, don't bring him. He's not going to be helpful then. He's just going to get caught a lot or something. Like,
which he actually
he told you how all this
doesn't,
shit works.
but he's also not that
No,
useful.
yeah, he's kind of in the middle. Sometimes he's helpful. He's helpful for the scenes that something helpful happens to him, but that could also just happen to someone that's there. Like another one of mine, I spun the wheel, sconce position. The scene where he bumps into a sconce and then that plays a little video of a vampire killing a werewolf or something, and like a werewolf and them fighting. It's pretty handy.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good thing he was there for that.
Yeah. Well, this is actually very common. They say like 9 out of 10 times when you're in the afterglow, you just sort of like stretch and you just hit a sconce that activates some sort of secret compartment or something. Mm-hmm. It happens to me all the time. I don't know about you.
I mean, it would definitely happen to me a lot. It would also probably happen to the people that live there, who have to turn on and off the sconce, like with like putting it on, like lighting it up or something. I would imagine the way it works is there's a candle in there and you have to take the candle off and put the candle on. So how has this never been discovered by Kate Beckinsale? It's her castle, right? It's her dad's room, but like, is she not allowed in there or something?
And it's also 400 something years old, at least, because that's how long ago the ancestor who made their vow lived.
Right.
So like, has it never needed to be replaced? It appears to be made of wood. I would think in 400 years that would have rotted at some point.
And this is the room full of clues with all the maps and shit that they're in earlier, going like, where's the secret? We can't find it. So it's like, it's not like this isn't even a room you would go in that just happens to be the room with this. It's like, it's in the room. So it should be kind of obvious.
I also, as long as we're talking about just the random clues he stumbles on, my other favorite is the way they get to Dracula's castle, the big painting that they read off to turn it into a magic mirror. The thing they read is like, oh, they could never figure it out until now because we have the missing piece. And the missing piece is saying, open the door in Latin. It's like, no one tried that ever?
Nope. And Van Helsing has it. They give it to Van Helsing, like, by the way, here's a piece of a scroll. This might be handy. And Van Helsing takes it out and puts it in there. And even Van Helsing, I feel like, is in Latin. Like, he speaks Latin. He could just read the scroll and go, open the door, huh? If I'm ever in a room that, like, might have a door in it and I can't find it, I should probably just yell that. Because maybe that's part of the scroll. Like, what the scroll's telling me to do. But yeah, they're so bad at putting this together. Dracula's probably so scared that eventually someone from out of town is going to show up in town and solve this mystery in like 10 minutes. But instead, Van Helsing's a dick or an idiot, and the other guy's getting, having sex, so he's too busy. And
but I mean,
Kate Beckinsale's, head injuries and stuff. Nobody can do it.
This also can't possibly be the only way to get to the castle because Dracula's not coming in and out of their mansion all the time.
I don't know. Maybe he is, though. Well, I would kind of imagine with this one, there's multiple portals into it and one's in. I mean, we see one of them, right? Dracula walks into a big ice room, right? Like in the first scene or maybe the second scene.
With his wives.
Yeah, and in that, I'm like, what the fuck is that? Did he just turn into the wall? Is that like a Dracula power I didn't know about? And then later we find out it's the ice thing. But yeah, I think there's multiple little portals scattered around, and this is the only one that they would conceivably be able to get access to, is my guess. I spun the wheel again, landed on one of mine. Whispers suck my dick. Remember when the lady's like, you're a friar, you can't do that. We don't see what he whispers to her, but I think he just whispered suck my dick to her. And I think that's pretty funny that he was like, that's what I'll get as my payment. I'll just take a shot at that.
Which, if she wasn't so obviously into the idea, would be pretty gross.
Right. It would be insane. Yeah. Especially for, a traveling friar who doesn't seem to get out much, like just taking a shot going, I think she's down. Like, yeah, he's got a lot of game. He knows something.
He briefly becomes a protagonist in an 80s sex comedy where he knows just like every woman he meets will be absolutely down for anything as soon as he suggests it.
And I mean, there's only really two women that we meet in this movie. It's Kate Beckinsale, if you don't count the brides. But Kate Beckinsale, like we said, lands on Hugh Jackman's face and is like, all right, this is my guy for the rest of the movie. So, maybe that's just the custom in this Transylvanian town. I don't know.
Could be.
But yeah, and then they have sex, and he's like, "Cool."
And then she never shows up again.
Yeah, my man high fives TV screen.
Yeah, love him and leave him. That's the way to do it,
Yeah.
Carl.
I think he's just sitting in that carriage with Frankenstein going, "Hey, you know what happened last night? It was pretty cool. I had sex with some lady."
Yeah, that's
and
why
Frankenstein's like, "I kind of remember what sex is because my brain is a big computer or whatever."
That's actually why Frankenstein becomes friendly after that point.
Yeah.
He says that, and Frankenstein's like, "Oh shit, for real?"
My man. And then they do the hug thing. I'm remembering this at like, I don't know if there's that scene that I don't know if everybody remembers as well as I do from Nathan For You, where he sets up the like the bro cave for men to hang out with while their women are shopping. And it's just like nothing. And it's and he just sits there with them and just kind of goes hi. And then they sit there and go hi. And at one point he goes, "So do you like sex?" to the guy. And the guy's like, "Hell yeah." And then they high five. And it's just like that. It's so funny for people that haven't seen it. I don't remember what this is called. What this episode is called, but it's like a bodega, not a bodega, what are those called? Those stores that sell like 8 dresses on a hanger. It's one of those. Is the business that he's helping, but he does it by creating the Bro Zone, which has like beer and public domain football and stuff playing. It's great. So yeah, that's the Frankenstein relationship here. I spun the wheel again, landed on one of yours, Diggins. 30-foot horizontal leap. It's pretty cool. Like that they have those.
While they're doing their carriage escape from Transylvania, that apparently takes them all the way to Budapest.
Which, how far is that? Like, do we know if you were traveling by carriage, how long that would take?
I mean, it would depend on how fast the carriage is. I don't know. I do know because I looked this up because we don't know where they're going from. I used the place that has like the tourist Dracula castle as my point of reference, just because it's basically the only thing we got. It's like a 7-hour drive. So
yeah,
I imagine it would be pretty long for a carriage.
I mean, like, it's a 6-day walk. So max 6 days, I would assume, but probably closer to like 3 days, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I mean, carriages are a lot faster than a person walking.
And this carriage is described as being pulled by Transylvanian horses, which Kate Beckinsale says nothing is faster than Transylvanian horses. And if I'm Hugh Jackman, I'm like, yeah, that counts werewolves, right? I think that's the only thing we're worried about finding us.
She says even werewolves, and she's absolutely wrong.
Absolutely. It'd be pretty weird if one got here then, right?
It's like, not even like they pull some sort of trick or something that lets them catch up or whatever. They just are faster than the horses.
Yeah.
But anyway, while this is going on, at one point there's a broken bridge. And it's not like kind of broken. It's like doesn't even go halfway across this canyon. Mm-hmm. And they're like, "Oh no, we've got to do something." But they're too busy getting attacked by vampire brides. So they don't have time. Instead, the horses just careen towards the edge of this bridge. And then they leap. And we cut to a wide shot of these horses.
Yeah.
And like, even though it's an effect, right? It's obviously not real horses making this jump. Even then, like, they can't make it look natural. Like, I swear, at one point in the jump, you can see them, like, stutter a little higher because they weren't going to make the jump.
Yeah. They double jump. No, you're right. And I have that. So for anybody that's curious, if you have Van Helsing on, it's about an hour and 16 minutes into it. I would recommend looking at it. And I might post a screenshot of it at the apex of the jump. Because they get so much, like you're saying, they jump 30 feet, but they have like some, momentum. So sure, whatever. But they also get a good like 5 feet of vertical leap somehow.
Oh, I think it's more than 5. It's like 10.
Yeah. No, it really is. It's like their reindeer in a movie where Santa just has to get the reindeer to go. But it's so wild. But this wasn't the plan, right? Was it to drop the thing and then trick them into going to flying after it?
I mean,
it was just
I don't know
to do this.
I don't know if it was precisely this. I think the plan was to trick them to get going into the cabin and then it explodes.
Right. But then if they did that while they weren't careening off, while that thing was careening off a cliff, it would also kill Van Helsing, right? Because it's like a bomb mixed with a bunch of stakes. So,
I mean, I guess you just,
it feels like,
as soon as they got there, he would know he had to jump off, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. And, yeah, that scene is the best. It's pretty cool. And yeah, you're right. They must go at least 10 feet in the air. But like, yeah, I wonder how far a horse could jump. Could a horse do half of this?
I mean,
at full speed. Even
if like a horse could do this, we're talking about 6 horses hitched to a wagon, pulling the wagon with them. Like,
they all have to jump at the same time.
Yeah, I have to imagine this is extremely unideal conditions for jumping.
Maybe Transylvanian horses have to do this shit all the time because all the bridges are out, so they're good at it. But regular horses couldn't do it.
Yeah, that's what she actually meant.
That's like day 2 of horse training.
She's like, nothing can outrun the Transylvanian horse on Transylvanian roads because all our bridges are just totally fucked. And Transylvanian horses can jump like nothing.
They've got so much lift, it's incredible.
Michael Jordan came to Transylvania to train with our beautiful horses so he could know how to get the mad ups.
Like, honestly, when this scene started, I remember thinking this when I was a kid. I was like, oh, they're like ghost horses or some shit. They're gonna like fly because there's no way they're gonna make this leap. But yeah, they do. Also, those horses are just gone, right? Because like, they don't take them with them. He just transfers from the horses he is on to the other horses that they already have. And then just, I guess, let those horses free into the wild in their big giant bridle or whatever. So like, they're not going anywhere. They're all just running around as a group of 6 bumping into trees.
Just eventually some random traveler is going to find 6 free horses.
Hell yeah. Lucky them. Yeah, I spun the wheel. I also had a one for this, which is Frankenstein Save My Dick. Remember when Hugh Jackman is hanging off of the thing, off of the carriage, and he's getting closer and closer to just getting crushed by one of the wheels. The wheel, but because this is
the wheel's about to spin his dick clean off.
Right, and also just crush him. But because this is a movie like this, it treats it like it's just gonna get his dick, and he's like, "Whoa, boy! I hope it doesn't do that." But if the whole you goes with it. But Frankenstein very helpfully at the last minute pulls him away and is like, "Not today, buddy. I could see the chemistry between you and this woman with all these head injuries. We're gonna make this happen."
Yeah, he's like, "Your friend here told me about the wonders of sexual intercourse, and so I must save your ability to engage in it."
Good for him. That makes sense. Now everything is coming together. What else is here? Our last things. Spin the wheel again. This one isn't really a thing on the nitpicking thing. I just want to say it. That move with the flail, that was the other thing that was in every trailer, was when Kate Beckinsale picks up the flail and gets ready to fight 50 Draculas and Hugh Jackman pulls her off. Like, it's, get out of here. We're going to get killed. I like that bit. That was cool. But then I spin the wheel.
Sorry, I just wanted to say one thing about that. As long as we're talking about it, it feels like right out of the strong female protagonist playbook, where it's like, you show that she's brave and spunky. She wants to go fight the vampires, but she can't actually do anything, though. Like, gotta be clear here. She's not going to get anything done. But
she's going to fight the girl vampires later because they're there for her to fight. But like, there's some guy vampires here, so no, thank you.
Right. So. At the end of the movie, she gets to kill a single vampire, and that's the only thing she does the whole time.
With a fucking awful, awful line. Maybe like the worst. I remember even seeing it as a 15-year-old and going, I don't think this works in this movie or in any movie, really. But do you want to say, do you remember what that line is that she uses to kill whatever remaining bride is still hanging around?
I think it's Alira. What's her name? I don't know.
Yeah, that sounds right.
I believe the line is something along the lines of, I think if you are going to kill somebody, you should just kill them and not talk about it.
Yeah. So besides the genital landing thing, Joss Whedon also managed to write one line for this movie, I assume, handed it to Stephen Sommer at a party and was like, you should put this in something. And Stephen Sommer was like, I don't know. And he's like, trust me, I'm killing it right now. So this is the kind of shit everybody loves. And I cringed then and I cringe now.
You know, I a few weeks ago wrecked The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. That's a line in that movie from 30 years before this one was made.
Get out, really?
There's one time, like, a guy who wants revenge on one of the main characters, like, bursts in on him in the bathtub and is like, I got you dead to rights. But he just keeps talking about what he wants revenge for, and then the other guy just shoots him from a strategically placed gun, if you catch my meaning.
Awesome. Love it.
And then he says...
A friar's gun, as far as we call it. You know?
Yeah, and then he says, like, yeah, you know, if you want to kill somebody, just kill them. So, like, that's how old this line is.
See,
I mean, or
that
that's how
I don't
long,
mind.
Like, people have been pointing out that that's a silly thing for people to do.
I think I like that line way better than that last bit where she kind of seems to ad-lib, like, don't just go around talking about it or something. But, like, that first bit I think is fine. But yeah, I couldn't stand it here. I spent the well again. Last thing, this one's one of mine. If I had a nickel for every time a barely clothed Hugh Jackman killed his girlfriend in the mid-2000s. It's just like Dark Phoenix ending. And even down to the, like, him holding her and standing in a bunch of tattered clothes from, you know, being almost out of clothes.
If only somebody here had done a college lecture about King Arthur killing Guinevere.
Yeah. Oh, that would be handy. I think my thing about this is it's so weird that this movie ends with her dying anyway, but it is treated because of the heaven thing as like, great, good for her. This is her best case scenario. Like,
I mean, if you know absolutely positive that heaven exists and you are going to it, doesn't seem that bad, honestly.
That's a great point. And especially if you're like, you've always thought that because of this curse and Dracula stuff, which you know is real. So you're like, oh, the devil's probably real. And then Van Helsing shows up and he's got all of his stuff from the Catholic Church. You're like, I got to take a shot. There's everybody around me is saying that this is the rules. But like if somebody else showed up from a different religion, it'd be a little bit more like, ooh, maybe this heaven thing is something we made up.
If like the Buddhist Van Helsing showed up and was like,
yeah,
I'm here to balance out Dracula's karma, she'd be like, fuck. God damn it.
Oh, yeah. I don't think anybody from my family's getting it to heaven, regardless of how many Draculas we kill in this. And he'd be like, wait, what did you think was? Never mind. We're not going to talk about it. But but yeah, Hugh Jackman, man. It's weird that he did this twice. And I liked it in this one. Well, or I liked it in this one a little bit more because it was an accident as opposed to like a premeditated kind of mercy killing.
Yeah, it's a little more thematically iffy when it's like sometimes somebody's just so crazy you have to kill them. And if that's the case, then the loved one, should do it. Sometimes, sometimes your girlfriend is just so crazy you have to kill her, guys. That's just how it is.
Apparently. Yeah. Otherwise, the world will probably be destroyed by her.
Or actually, I should say for the X-Men movies, which I assume is what we're talking about. Sometimes the woman you've been obsessing over for years and have never once dated.
Yeah.
It's crazy and you have to kill her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, if her boyfriend's dead, that technically makes you her new boyfriend, right? If you like her the most and she, well, it doesn't matter if she killed him or not, but he dies, you get her, according to, you know, the whole way this works. And,
right.
And yeah, Wolverine knows that. And I guess Van Helsing would have known that too. Jon Snow kind of knew that. Although she wasn't really into anybody or him, except for they slept together once, right? They do sleep together once in those shows.
Who?
Game of Thrones is Jon Snow and Daenerys.
I think they
the
sleep
other woman
together
that gets killed
more than once.
Oh, they do? Okay. I definitely remember one episode where a character's like walking by their room and they're like, ooh, something's going on. And then that was the same episode where Sam learned that she was his uncle, or like somebody was somebody's uncle. and that was
Daenerys
fun
is
for
it.
the
Well,
internet.
spoilers for Game of Thrones. Daenerys is his aunt.
Spoiler for Game of Thrones. Yeah. Oh, okay, there you go. Yeah. Anything else about Van Helsing?
I mean, so we just to fully get this out there. So at the end, Dracula's like, "I know you, Van Helsing. We've been fighting for hundreds of years. You are the man who killed me when I was a mortal, Gabriel." And he's like, "I can tell you all about your past." And Hugh Jackman's like, "No," and then kills him. So we never learn what the fuck he's talking about. How Van Helsing is apparently 400 years old. What the name Gabriel means. What he means by him being the left hand of God. Which between the name and that really makes it sound like he is like an angel or something.
Yeah, and like we never get any sense that he has any supernatural powers outside of the werewolf stuff, besides just being more agile than, you know, your normal human.
But he's not more agile than Anna, who is a normal human.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, she's, I guess, like more agile. What would I say to that? Yeah, more agile in terms of, I think maybe he has an agility field that he is able to apply to people around him. Although Anna's not even around him when she does her first agility. Yeah. But I was gonna say maybe he transferred that to the horses. I don't really, you know, I don't know. It's pretty cool. But wait a second. Yeah, so he's supposed to be an angel, maybe. Are there any other Gabriels in history that they could have been going for?
Like, Gabriel Iglesias?
Yeah, Peter Gabriel, some sort of king or something, I assume. I'm
looking if there's a... Saint Gabriel is just the archangel, not a real person. Or he's real if you believe.
Oh, yeah, obviously. And as we do, you know, we're a strictly Christian podcast, or Catholic even, you know, whatever the most, you know, whichever one has the most rules, that's the one we like, because you can nitpick it. One of these days we're going to nitpick Catholicism. It'll be fun. You know, that'll be a good episode.
There's, you know, there's a few things you could probably...
Is there?
I think so.
I don't know. I feel like it mostly adds up. But it's got a little clause at the end of the movie that's like, or the book that's like, by the way, if parts of this don't make sense, that's part of it. And you go, fuck. That's the sentence that breaks mostly nitpicking. You can't get past it.
Yeah, I don't know if there's like some historical character he was meant to be besides the Archangel Gabriel. I don't know.
Yeah.
Also,
okay.
And a thing I alluded to before. So it seems like Dracula believes that members of Anna's family need to be the conduit for the lightning that makes his children alive if it's not Frankenstein. But we're never given any reason for why that is the case.
I mean, did they bring life to him originally or something?
He is a member of their family, it turns out. The like old guy who made the vow that no one in my family will go into heaven until Dracula's dead is Dracula's dad, apparently.
So then I think that kind of works, right? Like Dracula having kids, he needs to have his Dracula life force transferred to the kid, some blood or something. But then the problem is, where does it go? Or like where...
I mean, yeah, I guess that could be the reason, and maybe in like some original draft of the script somebody said that, but no one in the movie ever like says anything about it.
But wait, is the Frankenstein part Dracula or like part? Is it made out of like their distant cousin or something?
Like he just
but it's
Frankenstein stole from a bunch of graves and made a Frankenstein.
But maybe it's like, do we know that those graves specifically could have been the ones that the family was buried in?
Nobody ever suggests anything like that, but they could have been.
Right? Huh. Okay. Yeah, this movie's pretty cool. Do you want to get to our classic segment then?
I would love that.
All right, let's recommend some things to the fine people. Is there anything we think DJ would recommend were he not on this holy quest to kill, I don't know, the abominable snowman or something?
Any board games you can think of?
I could like make one up. right?
Maybe
Like
like Hungry
Lizalder's Revenge
Hippos.
or something. You know, it's a card game, and you get 50 cards, and then you go around a board,
Mm-hmm.
and the game costs $800 or something. You know, it's 40 minutes of prep.
Yeah.
It's okay.
But there's also like three $200 expansions that add 25 more cards each.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And you don't want to play it without the expansions because it really, like, it's clear they didn't play test it. The expansions really fix it. Yeah, I guess that's what he would recommend. Diggins, how about you? Do you have anything to recommend to the fine people?
I do. I watched a little movie that I think I may have mentioned to you before, although not on this podcast. A little movie called Kill, which is an Indian movie.
Oh, yeah, I've heard about this movie. It looks cool. Was it cool?
It is cool. So
Nice.
the premise is this like Indian soldier. His girlfriend is being forced to marry someone else because her dad is like some powerful like Indian politician / shipping magnate.
Those fucking powerful Indian politicians.
I know, right?
You can't. Yeah.
Anyway, so she's going to Delhi, I guess, to meet her new fiance or something. It's actually not entirely clear. No, she already met her fiance. I don't know why they're going to Delhi for the wedding. I don't know. Not important. So he gets on the same train because he and his buddy are like trying to come up with ways where they can help her get out of this. But while they're on the train, a bunch of bandits like seal off 4 of the train cars and start like beating people up and robbing them until they find out that this extremely rich shipping magnate is on the train. And then they're like, oh, what if we ransomed him? But they didn't count on the fact that this guy's daughter is in love with India's coolest man who just like goes through the train beating all of them up with his buddy so that they can rescue the girlfriend. And
nice.
Things go from there. I think that's enough of the premise to like get an idea of what this movie is. But
yeah,
it's really fun. Like it's very much in the style of like The Raid, of just like very
like that,
like confined area of just a lot of guys punching each other, and it's really cool. I think it also though I think it ends up doing something kind of interesting where it is this like revenge move, this like John Wick style revenge movie kind of thing, but it also recognizes that there's a kind of tragedy about that, because like all the bandits are like families, like literal families that are working together, and so like when he ends up killing some of them, they get mad because they're like, oh, my dad, you just killed my dad. And so it ends up this like escalating thing of that just they keep wanting more and more revenge, which I think it gives it a little more weight than it would have had otherwise, which is nice. But ultimately, it's mostly a cool action movie, and it is a very cool action movie. So yeah. I think it's probably not in theaters anymore if it ever was near you, to be honest. I caught it when it was on its way out, but it'll probably be on VOD somewhere soon. So that's Kill. You should check that out if you can. What about you, Nando? Nice. Anything to rec?
I watched a couple movies besides this. Well, actually, that's not true. One movie and one show. As far as movies, I'd never seen this, and I wanted to watch a movie about a person having an existential crisis, because I was like, I've always wanted to, like, I've
always wanted to have an existential crisis.
Well, honestly, part of it was like, I wanted to write something about that, and I was like, I don't even know what that is. So I went and Googled it, and then I was like, what's a good movie for that? And it's all the movies by, what's his name? Charlie Kaufman. So I watched Synecdoche, New York for the first time, and
I love that.
What a weird ass little movie. I appreciated it, and I mostly enjoyed it, but I got to the end and I was like, I think I understood about half of that. I'd have to watch it again, or like, watch videos and read essays about it. But it was cool. Philip Seymour Hoffman, man.
I got to the end of that
good
movie.
In the Mission Impossible movie and this one.
The equally deep and thoughtful movies. I got to the end of Synecdoche, New York, and I was like devastated. I was like, oh,
Yeah,
I don't want to live anymore.
it's pretty rough, and it's like a movie. It's interesting because like it definitely I knew what it was about, or like not what it was about. Well, I kind of knew what it was about because I knew it was like some sort of existential crisis movie, but also I knew what the premise of the movie was. But it takes a really long time for it to get there. And for the first 45 minutes, I was so confused about just like what we were doing at all. And I think that led to me being more confused about how the themes and stuff were adding up. So like going back and not trying to figure out how this is ever going to connect to him building an actual city or whatever. I think I'd see a lot more of that little stuff in the beginning, like that flavor that makes it more interesting. And I feel like it's an interesting movie because, well, I don't know if this is true, but for me, like I recognize Philip Seymour Hoffman. Obviously, it's Philip Seymour Hoffman. I don't think I recognize too many other people in this movie. Like, I'm sure they're actors, but I'm interested in why they just didn't like all take off, or maybe they did. I guess the wife is what is her name? Catherine Keener, right? So she's in there. Oh yeah, Michelle Williams. Never mind. She's a pretty big actor. Forgot about her. It's really Hazel. Yeah, Samantha Morton. What's her story? Where's she been all this time? She was in this. Oh, the podcast of Sandman. Oh, she does Walking Dead stuff. Okay. Oh, and she's in Fantastic Beasts 1. Look at that. All right. Wow. Maybe I have seen more of this person than I thought.
One of our worst movies.
Yeah, well, the first one's definitely...
Well, it's the best Fantastic Beasts movie.
Yeah, there's plenty of places that could go wrong. Although I don't remember who this character is, because it's not either of the main two women that are like the ones that carry on through the sequels, so it must just be in the first one. She probably... Oh, maybe she's his assistant. Remember that? There's like an assistant that's like kind of in love with her or him.
No, because she's in more of the movies though.
Oh, she is.
I think she is the lady who runs the orphanage where Creedence Clearwater Revival is in the first movie.
You're right. Yeah, here's a picture of her. I remember this character kind of. Huh. Interesting. Cool. Yeah, it's a cool movie, but like it's a movie that takes. You got to be in the mood for it, but it is interesting. Not this. Fantastic Beasts is also a movie you got to be in the mood for. But yeah, prepare yourself for a surprise Johnny Depp cameo or whatever. But the movie, Synecdoche, New York, no Johnny Depp in it. So obviously that's a huge plus, but also, it's very cool and weird. Yeah, it's cool. The other thing I watched that I would recommend this week, which I haven't finished. I've watched 3 episodes. Like I feel like I have a sense for it. Is a new show called Sunny. Have you heard of this, Diggins?
Is that like It's Always Sunny?
Not yet, but maybe it has something to do with that. It takes place in Japan, and they never go to Japan, so maybe this is taking place concurrently. But it's about a woman whose husband dies in Japan. Woman is played by Rashida Jones, and she is not from Japan. She's kind of like there with her husband and her son, who also dies in a plane crash. So then she's just kind of there alone and sad. And it turns out her husband, one of the things that he did that she didn't know about was made robots, which are something that's all over this world. Everybody has robots. She hates them. And then he gives her one after he's dead. And he's like, here you go. And it's her kind of solving the mystery related to his death, kind of, but also just like hanging out with this robot that's like cheery and fun that she just keeps wanting to throw in the trash. So that part of it was pretty good. I think overall it's just an interesting little mystery movie or mystery show. I don't know how many episodes it's going for, but it's currently on 3. So I'm guessing it's a 10 or 8 episode season on Apple TV Plus. I don't recognize any other actors in it, but I bet the robot is someone that I should know, because the name, like the voice sounds kind of familiar. Her name is Joanna
Siri
Sotomora. No, it could be. It's funny. What I actually heard, the way they did this was kind of cool. The robot has a face, but it's a computer face, but it has like eyes and a mouth, and it talks to her. And apparently what they did was they had the robot on set being, controlled by a guy with like a, RC car thing or whatever. But then the person is offset, doing all the lines and wearing a camera, and then the camera translated their facial expressions onto the robot. With like little things, like the eyes would get bigger and smaller, or whatever. And I do think that's pretty cool. It comes through pretty well. And I think the mystery is good. I also think, and this is just the year for it, Japan is fucking crushing it this year. It is where the culture is from. You know, this is the year I watched Godzilla -1, but it's also the Shogun year. I watched the second season of Hitmonkey that has that. It's not, doesn't take place in Japan, but like another Japan thing. It's just so much good Japan stuff. Like, I don't really want to go. It's pretty far. But like, if Japan was here, I'd be over there all the time. It seems great.
I think I'd like to go one day. It seems like a cool place. You see Tokyo and Kyoto, both for the like new modern Japan, and then seeing the old history. Get the two halves of it. I think that would be nice. But also, it would be very expensive.
Very expensive. And it's one of those places that so far, I feel like it's one of those vacations where I'd feel a lot of pressure to do everything. And you know, it's something you should probably not only do if you have a lot of time, so that you don't have to like rush through it, because it's like a 12-hour flight. You don't want to do that. Exactly.
Too much.
And I would want to spend so much time there, just like at the Pokemon Museum that I'm sure exists, or some weird shit like that. But I also want to go see all the cool, you know, architecture and all the history.
Land down in Osaka.
Yeah. Even though we're getting one of those with a Dark Universe very soon in our own US of A. And I think there's another one. Or does that one already exist in our US of A? Maybe that they have that at the other Universal?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't know. But overall, I think the show is interesting. I will say I also watched Hitmonkey. With Hitmonkey, I made a video wrecking it, so I feel like people could probably watch that. But the second season's cool. I think the first season and the second season together are really good. And like the action's great. It's got a lot of art. It's just a really good show. And I don't know why they're like, I don't know, hiding it from all the people, but it's on Hulu. So you got to like look for it. But it is very good. So I would recommend that to people. It's like a, you know, kind of obscure comic book. I mean, super obscure comic book character. But they really take it and like go in another direction. Like, it's not like Spider-Man's in every episode, so that I think helps a lot. And I finished The Boys this week. It's interesting. I think it's a lot of setting up stuff for the finale season, stuff that you would kind of expect. But I think overall it does those things well. What are we doing next week, Diggins?
I don't know. I mean, Twisters is out, but if we want to continue Hugh Lie, we have a couple options. I think we had some other things we talked about for this episode that could fit for that.
Did, yeah. I've seen, I don't know if you've seen the track listing for Deadpool and Wolverine, features a song from a Hugh Jackman movie that we haven't done. And it's probably only a little thing.
That has songs?
Yeah, it's the one that has songs, which I've never seen.
Me neither.
So maybe for that. I'm sure when it happens, you'll be like, oh, right, that's from that. So I don't think the context is that important.
I'll hear the most generic pop song imaginable, and I'll be like, oh, well, that's probably from...
Yeah, exactly. You're like, oh, yeah, this is kind of like Fall Out Guy. But it's a good, it's good. I think there's a lot of good Hugh Jackman movies that we thought about. Like Pan was one of the ones that came up, because like he's made a lot of movies, and a lot of them are good, and a lot of them are weird little forgettable things that, you know, came and went. So they're pretty helpful for this. I wouldn't say that's quite what Van Helsing is, because I think Van Helsing had like a little bit of an impact on the culture.
Van Helsing is certainly memorable.
Yeah. Whereas something like Reminiscence or you know, The Front Runner or Chappie, remember hearing about it, and then it just disappeared into the ether. Nobody talks about it anymore. So one of those, maybe the Australia movie with Nicole Kidman. I've never seen it, and I think I remember hearing it's quite long, but besides that, maybe it's cool. It's by Baz Luhrmann. I didn't know that.
Oh my God.
Boy. Yeah. Is he Australian? I guess maybe he is.
Is he? I didn't think so.
I would assume you'd have to be Australian to make this movie. Like that would be
to be named
part
Baz.
of to be named Baz. It's 2 hours and 45 minutes long. Jesus Christ.
He is Australian. Yeah.
Yeah. Fascinating. If there's a Baz in every like city, you know,
in Australia,
like Yeah, every village has its own little boss. So I don't know. So probably something in the Hugh Jackman category, unless the timing's weird and it ends up being Deadpool, but I don't think it will be. Or maybe Elektra. Who knows? That was the other thing that maybe came up. So we'll see. We'll talk to DJ when he gets back from his trip. Maybe he'll have some recommendations. Speaking of that, plugs, Diggins, do you have anything to plug for the fine people?
Not really. What about you, Nando?
Videos. I have a video about the finale of The Boys that's going out like today, so that'll be out. And it's pretty long, but it's just kind of going through all the character arcs and going, this one was good, this one was kind of weird, but that's pretty fun if you like The Boys. My Magneto movie pitch video thing is like super long. It's like over an hour long. It really got away from me. Not like away from me in a bad way, but away from me in like you write the whole thing and then you record it in like little pieces. And then by the end, you put it all together. You go, wow, this is longer than I thought. But that will be on Nebula probably before the end of the week. So that'll be there, which means my In Defense of the X-Men movies Nobody Likes video will be on YouTube. So you can watch that. But yeah, that's it. So, and you know, Roses, Rejections and stuff for DJ, whatever. I don't know what they're doing on The Bachelor. I don't know if Wolverine's there this week too, but
yeah, Hugh Jackman is actually competing in this season.
That's true because he's single. He should be able, as Wolverine, to just go in. You know, he gets an episode if somebody else's Bachelor season, and if Wolverine can, you know, charm the women, then they're obviously not for you. The Bachelor, that's not gonna work out. So. It's like a really hard, like the boss of relationships that you have to fight before the end of the show.
Yeah, this season they add a new round. When it gets down to the 2 before you have to choose, they have the Wolverine round where Hugh Jackman gets to wine and dine them, and they get to choose whether the final contestant is the original guy or Hugh Jackman.
That would be so good. See, I always wonder what are the new twists they're going to put on these reality shows. That would be a really funny one. If it's just a regular Bachelor show and at the very end, Hugh Jackman shows up. So yeah, nobody that watches these listen to those last couple sentences, but the people that make the shows listen to those last couple sentences and make that show. But yeah. So next week, one of those movies, we'll see. Until then, I've been at Nando V Movies on Twitter.
And I'm at This Is an Odd Name.
Goodbye, everybody. Goodbye.
Bye.